So we're ready to start. So we're going to learn a special mimer. Every mimer is special. But we're going to learn a special mimer. Where is it? This is a mimer from the Alter Rebbe. We usually learn L'Kutei Torah, Torah Or. We finished those memorim already. Everything that's in print in Torah Or. So we have to get, as I mentioned, a little bit more innovative. So this is a mimer that I found from the Alter Rebbe, but it's not printed in Torah Or. And it is over here. In Sefer Mamorei Admor Hazakin, which are the memorim of the Alter Rebbe from the various different years. This is in Tov Kuf Samach Beis. So that's in 1802. In Tov Kuf Samach Beis is when the Alter, or 1801, the Alter Rebbe said this mimer. Shabbos Parshas Chayei Sarah. The opening words of the mimer is not a pasuk from this parsha. The opening words of the mimer is a pasuk from a Devar. Let me first say that tonight's class has been sponsored by my uncle, Rabbi Landau, Rabbi Yonah Landau. This is in honor of his father's Yortzeit, which is going to be the Shabbos, the 25th of Cheshvan. Reb Doiv ben Rav Rabbi Yeshua. His neshama have a very great aliyah to the greatest of heights. He channel lots of brachas. The Landau family, and all that they need and all that they want. It'll be a big schus. Okay. The mimer is very, very vague in my head. It means that I don't have too much of an understanding of it. With Hashem's help, we will learn it, and it will crystallize as we are learning it. So it seems to be it's a fascinating mimer. And I feel like, as I mentioned, I don't have a grip on it. But, we're going to learn it and learn it. Hopefully it will come together. So the mimer is actually printed in two places. This is in Tov Kuf Samach Beis, Mamorei Admor Hazakin Tov Kuf Samach Beis, and it's also printed in the memorim called Hishalech Li'ozne. So in that sefer, it also has the same discourse, slightly different, but mainly it's the same inyan. Okay. It begins with a pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze, which is in the end of the Torah, in Devarim, Deuteronomy, and it's talking about a girl. There's talking about all kinds of forbidden relationships, and the Torah is discussing the idea of a girl that is betrothed to be married, and then she has relations with someone else. So then it's a problem. The Torah says, however, if a girl was attacked in the field, it's a pasuk, it's a verse. If a girl was raped in a field, in many of the Arab countries, in the Muslim countries, there's such cruelty. The guys rape the girls, and then the girls are punished. Many times the girls are put to death because they were raped by someone. It's so vicious and cruel. The parents say, or the family says, she's a disgrace to the family because she was raped. She was raped. It wasn't her fault. One thing, if it was her own promiscuity, it's one thing, but it wasn't her fault. So the Torah says that if it happened in a city, so we can assume it wasn't a rape, because she could have screamed and people would have heard. Obviously, the Torah doesn't mean, these are just general guidelines, but in each case, it needs to be investigated. If everybody went to a party and no one was around, then she could yell. We're talking about, generally, it's a busy, especially in the olden days in cities, people all lived cramped together, very short places, very hard. You can hear across when someone is yelling, right? So if it's in the city, then we blame the girl and the guy, both. We say it was a consensuous relationship. and he's punished and she's punished, if she's a married woman or a married girl, betrothed. If, however, it's in the field, so no one can hear her, so she was attacked, and therefore the pasuk says, "Ulanayra loisased davar," to the girl you shouldn't do anything. Why? These are the words of the pasuk. Tzaka Hanarah, the girl cried out, "Ve'ein Mashiach Allah," but no one came to rescue her. The girl cried out, and no one came to rescue her. Nice story, sad story. A girl was raped, but at least don't punish the girl. The man should be punished. He should be put to death if it was a married woman. Okay? But she is innocent. That's what it says. There's a much deeper explanation of this girl that is being raped. The girl that is being raped, as we're going to see tonight, is referring to the Shekhinah that is being raped during the exile. Because the Shekhinah is the life-giving force that has infinite kindness and goodness to give energy to the world in holiness. And there is such a concept that the Klippa, the unholy, the forces of darkness, raped the Shekhinah during the time of exile. And as we're going to see, that causes the Shekhinah to do things that she wouldn't otherwise do, to act very harshly, which means that certain tragedies happen in the world that are like horrible, but it's not, and everything comes from God. Everything comes from God. That means the Shekhinah, and the Shekhinah is the power. If there's no energy flow from the Shekhinah, there is no life. The Shekhinah is the input of God in the world. So here there is a mass murderer that goes and shoots up a whole shul, kills many people, and the Shekhinah is at fault because she empowered the energy, the Shekhinah is the energy of this gunman to go into the synagogue and to shoot. If the Shekhinah would not enliven him, they wouldn't have been able to doing it. So when the end of days comes, and we're going to look at all the atrocities that happen in the world, who's at fault? So we're saying like this, that these effects of things that are evil that happen in the world, even though they're happening through the Shekhinah, the girl, in which God is acting in a very, very harsh way, it's not the fault of the Shekhinah, but rather because she's being raped by forces of cruelty that exist within the world, that are putting in such judgment into the Shekhinah that essentially is not who she is. Does that mean that there can be something can happen in the world that is essentially evil? It's just that the Shekhinah has no control because she's being raped by the spiritual klipot, spiritual klipos that insert in her very harsh judgments. Obviously, we have to say that on one level, yes, that's true, but there are even deeper levels where even these things that happen have a higher and positive purpose that we don't understand. And that is going to be revealed one day. But even on the lower level, on the level where you see certain acts of extreme punishment or extreme judgment that comes in the world, which in a sense you would say it's unbefitting to God to act so harsh. We say the Shekhinah is not at fault because she was raped. That will also generate, by the way, into every soul, because every neshama is a piece of the Shekhinah. Certain, at the very, very end of time, when it comes time for Mashiach to come, and we look at the behavior of many souls in this world, in which they behaved unbefitting to a soul, and neshama should have behaved this way. The pasuk is saying, don't blame the girl. Since the neshama was in the territory of the field, The field, as we're going to see soon, is the field of Esav. Yaakov hangs out in the tents, indoors of holiness. Esav is called Ish Sadeh, the man of the field. So he's the rapist who's out in the field. Since this girl, during the time of exile, which means the Jewish soul, is living in the lands of Esav, is living outside the realms of holiness, is living in the fields. So when Jews are acting in certain ways, it's not really truly what the girl wants to do. She's being pulled into it by the rapist who's pulling these neshamas, and the girl, the soul, the true neshama, is crying and doesn't want to participate, but yet is being dragged into it because of, and he's going to explain, it all began with a rape that happened at the beginning of time when the snake rapes Chava, which the Gemara says that when Chava, the whole story of the tree of the Garden of Eden, that wasn't only that the snake desired Chava, but he actually raped Chava. And in that rape, and Chava we're going to see soon, Eve, Chava, she represents the Shekhinah. And the rape of the snake doesn't have to mean physically Chava was raped by the snake. But the spiritual idea of what that means created a certain darkness in the Shekhinah, which translates into all the darkness that we have within our souls, which translates also into the harsh things that happen in the world. And in the end, all souls are exonerated. And the Shekhinah is exonerated, because the blame will go squarely on the rapist. Because it was the forces that are of Klippa that poison a soul. That's what it means. It rapes. It puts its pollution, its contamination into a soul to cause the soul to behave antithetical to what the soul wants to be. That's the pasuk, and that's where the explanation is going to explain this idea. What does it have to do with this week's parsha? It's connected to this week's parsha because Sarah, the opening words of the parsha is about Sarah. It's called Chayei Sarah. And the opening words of the parsha is speaking about the achievement of Sarah, what kind of an incredible life she lived. She lived 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. And it says in the end, Shnei Chayei Sarah, the life of Sarah. And Rashi says that means that her entire life was equally good. So the Zohar this week in the parsha explains that Sarah did the tikkun for Chava. Chava messed up. She was the first woman and she messed up. Sarah is the one who fixes the sin of Chava, which means she goes down into the field. Like you see, she went into Paro's, and Paro's called a snake. He's called the great crocodile that is in the river, in the Nile River. So he's the snake. He wants to rape her, but she goes down and she came out successful. She came out untouched. Paro couldn't harm her. It's really, if you think about it, it's a reincarnation of Chava, of Shekhinah coming into the world. The first time the snake got her, this time is a tikkun. Sarah and Avram were misakin. That's why they went down to Egypt. It's like going into exposure to the snake. Paro tries, which are the forces of Klippa, try to affect that rape again, but he can't. And she's gone. And that represents this idea that eventually the Shekhinah shakes herself off from all these dark forces that want to bring about this corruption, so to speak, in the Shekhinah, and to cause corruption in the world. Okay. So the Zohar makes this equation, and the Zohar brings this verse, don't do anything to the girl because of... So I'll read to you the Zohar first of the parsha, and then we'll see how the Alter Rebbe. Okay. There is a pasuk, but introduction, because there's a lot of introductions to introduction. That termite shouldn't be here. Termite, yeah. You see over there, he's eating up the He's eating up the, if you see over there's a bunch of crumbs, wood crumbs. That's because these termites are inside the mechitza. That's right, because he's eating up the mechitza, and now they're flying around, and they're bothering. So we don't want them, so get out of here, okay? Good. He comes from the snake. The termites are related cousins to the snake. No, they're not constructive, they're negative. Right? In any case. So the Zohar says like this. Let me read the Zohar to you, and then we'll continue. Pasach v'yamar. He opens up, when in explaining this week's parsha, Rabbi Yossi opened up with a pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'Yisroel eretz bakoil hi." It's a pasuk in Keheles. In Keheles, it says like this: that there are many types of. There are many. There are many types of fortune, many types of assets. A person can have assets. You have this, you have that. But the best asset to have is land, real estate, earth. The Zohar is, like we know, it's like the best thing to invest in is always real estate, because eventually real estate will go up, right? So you invest in stocks, you invest in gold, you invest in this, you don't know. But real estate, it's kind of stable. And Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon says that. But when he talks about earth, he says he doesn't mean just real estate, ground. He means particularly the earth, land, earth. Because V'Yisroel eretz, the quality of earth, bakolhu, of everything. To all it is the most precious commodity. Melech, because even a king, l'sada nevad, needs to come onto the earth. The king is so powerful, he's so great, he's so wealthy, but if the earth decides to close shop one day and not give forth vegetation, if the earth decides it's on strike, then even the king will die. Because the king too derives his energy from where? From the field. That is the simple meaning of this pasuk. On the simple level. V'Yisroel eretz bakoilu. That's how Rashi explains the pasuk. Mystically, because everything has a mystical meaning as well. Eretz is referring to Malchus. Malchus the Shechina. It's the reason Malchus is called Eretz, because she's the lowest level. There are 10 spheres, and the final sphere is Eretz. So she's the lowest level, called Eretz. It's one of the reasons she's called Eretz. The Yisroel Eretz, the advantage, Yisroel means the addition, the power that comes into Eretz. Eretz, I need everybody to come to the introduction. The introduction is always the best part of the whole Maayon. Gets you to capture this. But okay, even from this part, it'll also be good. So what does it say? V'Yisroel eretz bakoilhu. So the simple meaning, as I said, the advantage of earth. You would have heard the introduction, at least I would have sparked your interest to say, wow, I got to hear this shir. This is like crazy. In any case. Okay. So the pasuk says, V'Yisroel eretz bakoilhu, that the advantage of earth, of land, is in everything. It's the most precious commodity, because even a king, melech l'sada nevad, even a king needs earth, needs the land. You're real estate. There's no better commodity than earth. And even the king needs land, either to live on, to put his palace, but also mainly to get food. He needs fruit from the earth. Spiritual meaning of that is Eretz is Malchus, the lowest level. The Yisroel Eretz, what gives a Yisroel in Malchus? What gives an addition to Malchus? Bakoil. We learned many times Malchus is like the moon. She doesn't have anything of her own. The earth is like unbelievable. The earth produces everything. But the earth can't produce a thing unless it first gets a hashpah from Shamayim. Shamayim has to rain. The heavens give rain. The earth gives output. So first she needs to receive, then she can give. A woman is an unbelievable being. She can create children. She can't do it unless the man first is mashpiyah to the woman. Then the woman can produce a child. The man can't produce a child. The woman can do it. But the woman can only do it. She's a makabel, she receives, and from her receiving, she's able to produce. The earth needs to receive from where? From Shamayim. Shamayim is... Now spiritually, we said Malchus is called earth. Yesoid is called Shamayim. Shamayim is mashpiyah to Aretz, is the hamshacha from Yesoid to Malchus. Okay? Everybody following so far? Good. That's the meaning. The Yisroel Eretz, the advantage of Eretz, that Eretz could produce and give out all the goodies that the earth can produce. Bakoil, koil is Sfiras HaYesod. Yesod is called kol. The reason why Yesod is called kol is because it's deriving the energy from all the Sfirot, from Chesed, Gevura, Teferes, Netzach, Hod, and it's all flowing into Yesod. And Yesod passes on that to Malchus, to the recipient. And that's, where do you see that Yesod is called Kol? We say it in davening. L'cha Hashem, to you Hashem, Hagedula, which is Chesed, to you God is greatness, that's Chesed. Hagevura, which is Gevura, Teferes, V'hanetzach, V'ahod. And then we say L'cha Hashem HaMamlacha, to you God is kingship. The only one that's not mentioned is Yesod. But it is mentioned. Ki Kol B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz. Kol is Yesod. And what does Yesod do? It connects Shamayim. There's an Anpin, the higher Sefirot, which are called Shamayim, Aretz, and earth. The connection between the Ze'er Anpin, the higher Sefirot, with Malchus is through Yesod. Ki Kol B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz. That Kol is mashpiyah from Shamayim, we're into Aretz. And that's the meaning of Yisroel Eretz, the addition that comes to earth, Bakoili is from Yesod. But then the pasuk continues, Melech l'sadeh nevad. So what does that mean? The king is a servant to the earth. That means, on the simple level, it means that the Ze'er Anpin is called Melech. The Malchus is called the queen. But Melech is the husband, the Ze'er Anpin. That Melech, that the power of the Ze'er Anpin, l'sadeh, to the field, nevad, he's subject. In other words, he has to be mashpiyah to Malchus. Because ultimately he derives from her. Because all the nitzutze kedusha that she, the whole purpose of creation is not Ze'er Anpin. The whole purpose of creation is what? Malchus. So he too is subject to Eretz, to earth. Or, we'll see in a second, or it means Melech, a much higher level. The Zohar says Melech Ilah, the higher king. Even Keser, which is called Melech Ilah. Keser is higher than all the spheros. L'sadeh nevad is mashpiyah to Malchus. Because the shorish of Malchus ultimately is where? In Keser, in the crown. We know that Malchus is the root of Malchus is higher than all the spheros, all the way up to Keser. That's the first pirush. And I'm only saying this as an introduction because the main part of this mimer is not dealing with the first pirush of this pasuk. It's dealing with the second pirush of the pasuk. Okay? So let me read it inside first, what the Zohar says. The Yisroel Eretz Bakoilu Melech L'Sadeh Nevad. The Yisroel Eretz Bakoilu Vadai. Doha Metamen Nofkin Ruchen V'Nishmasen V'Te'alta Le'am. Spirits and souls all come out from Eretz, from the earth. Melech L'Sadeh Nevad, Man Melech, who is Melech? Da Kutshe Berichu. That's Kutshe Berichu. That's the level of the Ze'er Anpin, is L'Sadeh, to the field, Nevad. Fine. L'Sadeh Nevad Kad Iyos Takin Kedikoyos. When the field works itself out really well, when Malchus is Nevad, when you work, Malchus is well groomed, And how is Malchus well-groomed? Through Torah and mitzvahs, through our avodah b'tachtonim, that gives the Shekhinah full of the ornaments and the jewelry and so on to be worthy for her husband. Then Melech l'sadeh. Then the Melech, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is mashpia to the Sad. But now the Zohar says, Melech do Melech ilah, the ischaber l'sadeh. Even on a much higher level, the Hamshacha doesn't only come from the Ze'er Anpin. The flow of energy comes from Keser, Kad Nevad, when she's deserving, when she is well, Man Sada, who is the field? That's the field that God has blessed, which the Shekhinah is called the field that God has blessed. The Rebbe in different Maayon explains, you have two things over here. You have Eretz and you have Sadeh. The beginning of the Pasuk speaks about Eretz, and later the Pasuk says, Melech l'Sadeh Nevad. So what's the difference between Eretz and Sadeh? They're both Malchus. Sadeh is Pnimius HaMalchus, and Eretz is the Chitzonius of Malchus. Because in Malchus there's two levels. There's the external part of Malchus that goes down, and there's the Pnimius of Malchus that remains higher. I'll give you an example. Sadeh is the Gan Eden. Gan Eden is called Sadeh. Eretz is the rest of the world. What's the choicest part of the earth? What's the choicest part of the earth? There is earth. And amongst the earth, the finest part of the world is Gan Eden. It's called Sadeh, the field. Since Malchus is the source of earth, right? Since Malchus, so in Malchus itself, the Pnimius of Malchus is Sadeh. The Chitzonius of Malchus is Eretz, earth. And that's what the Pasuk is saying. Yisroel Eretz Bakoilu. Malchus, the Eretz, the Chitzonius, the external part of Malchus is receiving from Yesod. But Melech, from Keser l'Sadeh Nevad, to the Pnimius of Malchus, is a Hamshacha from even higher, from Sadeh Nevad. Okay. Kesiv Sada Shaber Hashem, the Kad'iu Nevad Vistaken, when she is developed, Koma the Itztrichla completely, Kede Chayei is like what it should be, Kedein Melech Ilah is Chaber Ima. Then Keser shines in Malchus, gewaltig. Okay, I'm skipping Dovar Achar. And again, all of this is not so negea to our Maimer. The next Pirush, which the Zohar is now going to say, is the Zohar suddenly is going to drop the Pirush of Melech l'Sadeh Nevad. According to this, Melech l'Sadeh Nevad is a very, very, very high thing. That Malchus is receiving from where? From Melech, from Keser, unbelievable. Now it's going to show the dark side of things. The first part of the Pasuk, Yisroel Eretz Bakoilhu, is when Malchus, which is Eretz, is receiving from Yesod, everything is good. But then Melech, when Malchus comes down, and it becomes Melech on the world, so then Melech has a different meaning. Melech now means when Malchus lowers itself down to actualize her kingship, which is that Malchus descends into the lower worlds, the Shekhinah goes down. The question is, the second half of the Pasuk, are we talking a higher level, or are we talking a lower level? According to the second Pirush, Yisroel Eretz Bakoilhu is a higher level, and Melech l'Sadeh, Melech then, according to that, is not Keser. It's not even the Ze'er Anpin. It's Malchus that's becoming Melech. Now, by the way, why is it called Melech? It should be Malka. Now, by the way, it's an interesting thing. This that it says that Malchus is female, I once saw this in a Maimer, is Malchus is feminine, is to the higher spheres, because she's a Makabel. But to the lower worlds, she's masculine in the sense, because she's the Mashpia. She's giving life to them. They're the Makabel. So that's why in this sense, the queen becomes the king. She's now the king, which means she's now the Mashpia. Oh, but once she comes down to the lower world, there's the danger, l'Sadeh Nevad. She becomes enslaved to the Klippa, to the field. Who's the field? Esav Ish Sadeh. Esav, that's a very, very dark field. Which field is it? It's the field that I began the class with, where the girl is raped. Malchus is raped in the field. Which it says in the beginning, it speaks about a girl, the opening of the Maimer that we started learning. It says, "V'im b'sadeh timatzeh," if this girl is found outside in the field. What does the pasuk say? Don't punish the girl. As we're going to see, that's the whole time of exile. It's unbelievable stuff tonight. That when the Shekhinah goes down, especially during the exile and during the Jewish people and the Shekhinah go amongst the nations, go outside of holiness, they go into the field, they go into it's dangerous zone. It's possible that the one who hangs out in the field, which is the man of Klippa, should rape the Shekhinah. Or, on an individual level, to rape a neshama. That means that it puts into the soul things that are foreign to the neshama. It injects deep contamination into a soul. And it causes the soul to operate in a very ungodly manner. And it causes the Shekhinah to do things that you wouldn't expect the Shekhinah to do. We're going to see, as we spoke earlier, to act very harshly and to do judgments and punishments in the world and things that are extremely. So the pasuk says, don't blame the Shekhinah. Only blame the rapist. He's going to have fault and have to take, he's going to have to take, what's it called again, responsibility for all that happened and not her. Because Hanarah, because she's really crying, she doesn't want to take part of this. She's crying out, Ve'ein Mashiach, and no one helped her. Okay? So the Zohar learns. Davaracha melech, who is the king? Da isha yiras Hashem. That's the woman who fears God. That's the Shekhinah. Kamada atoma isha yiras Hashem hi tesalo. Okay, fine. L'sada nevad means da isha zara. That means that she becomes enslaved to the foreign woman. Kamada atoma l'shmarcha me isha zara, from a foreign woman. Begin the isada the isada. There's two levels of field. Isada, there is a field. The chol berchan v'kadishin beisharyan, where all blessings and holiness dwell in that field. That's the Malchus the Kedusha. Is a field asher bircha. It's called Chakal Tapuchin Kadishin, the holy apple orchard. It's got all the blessings. Gan Eden. Kamoda Atoma Kareach Sada asher bircha Hashem. That field is referred to as Sada asher bircha Hashem, the field that's blessed with godly blessing. The Isada, there's another field. The chol chiruv emesoavu v'sheitzaah v'ketilin kravin ukravin beisharyan. There is another field, because there's two types of fields. Think about it. There are fields that are full of their gardens. They're beautiful. They're filled with fruit trees and produce and other things. And there are fields where people wage battle. Wars happen. And wild beasts roam in the field. And sometimes, God forbid, the rapist hangs out in the field and waits for it. Or they make us... so the Zohar says, the chol chiruv, that every destruction... Also, in the city, things are built up. In the field, you can have a haunted house, right? A destroyed house. U'mesa'ava, and all kinds of contamination things. V'sheitzaah, and destruction. V'katilin, u'kreven, and wars, beisharya. It's another kind of a field. V'hai melech, zimnan, and there are times when the Shekhinah, who's called melech, zimnan, the ihu neva, that she becomes, or he becomes enslaved, lahai sadeh, to this field. D'chsiv tachashol shorog za'aretz. And this is the idea, chas v'shalom, a terrible Indian, of, this is the idea of tachas eved kiyim loich, that the pasuk says that a servant can be king, the servant becomes king over his master, or a shifcha, a maidservant, she becomes the mistress over her. This is this idea that we're talking about. V'hain melech is kasya nahorev is chashach. So now this king, which is the Shekhinah, its light gets covered up and dark, ad is dake, until she can purify herself. V'schaber le'ela, and she can become reattached above. In other words, the end of Golus HaShekhinah. What's the inyan of Golus HaShekhinah? Is that this powerful, unikas. Now, usually when we talk about Golus HaShekhinah, we're talking about that the klippas, the unholy forces, the 70 ministering angels, all the dark choleres, all these whatever, they're all siphoning energy from the Shekhinah to be empowered and to use that power for negative things. Here we're talking about the other inyan, flip inyan. Not so much that the Shekhinah becomes a source of flow towards the klippas to give them energy, but the other inyan is that they insert their venom into the Shekhinah. When a person sins, for instance, there are two things that are happening. When a person does an Avera, a person is now opening themselves up to what? To a hack. And when you're opening up to a hack, two things are happening. Number one, the hacker can steal. The hacker that hacks a person's computer and a person's account can steal. The other thing the hacker can do is put his shtusim into in other words, a person who generally would keep his computer or whatever in a certain place, meaning in a certain state of whatever. And then the hacker comes in and throws in all kinds of stuff that you're not interested in. To distract, to pull, whatever. So that pollution that's being put in, it's two ways, a two-way street. When a Yid does an Aveira Chas v'Shalom, the klippas now have access to this person to bombard his neshama, his soul, with very dark thoughts of depression. What do you think a person gets depressed? How does a Jew get depression? Klippa is depressed. So when Klippa has access to a person, it channels depression into that human being. A person can get out of their depression. It fills them with all kinds of these negative, unholy impulses and desires and wants, which are alien to them. That's called the soul being raped. It's really what it is. It's a raping of the soul. And this raping of the soul happens to an individual neshama, but it can also happen to the neshama kolelas of all neshamas, to the Jewish people during the time of Golus, and to the Shekhinah. So the pasuk is saying, don't blame the Shekhinah. What? So the pasuk says in the end, after the Golus is over, in the end of days, the Shekhinah is not to be blamed, the neshama is not going to be blamed, because for the last 2,000 years, she was wandering in the fields of Klippa. And when she's wandering in the fields of Klippa, there will be that rapist who will take advantage of her and attack her. And she cried out because she didn't want to go along with it. It's not like the person is looking for this. They don't want it. But because they're vulnerable, what happened is that, and why did we go out into the field? If we go into the field because of our own volition, but we're going to a field because we have to do the tikkunim. The Eibishter sent us into the field. We go into the world because it's our job to elevate the sparks of holiness that are everywhere. So if we're not going to go into the territory of the Klippa, into the field, we're going to remain in Meisharim forever, we're not going to be fixed the world. So we have to go out there. But in the process of going out there, there's a rape. And the pasuk is saying, okay. So that's how this pasuk, but as I said earlier, Chava is the Shekhinah. And what does the pasuk say about Chava? What does the Gemara say about Chava? Ba Nachash al Chava, that the snake raped Chava. Nachash, which this is the idea, Chava is the Shekhinah. Sarah, however, I mentioned this earlier in the introduction, that Sarah made a tikkun on Chava. Why? She also went down to the snake. Where did she go? She went down to Mitzrayim. She went into the field. She was abducted by Parai, who Parai is the snake. He wanted to rape her, but what happened? He couldn't. She came out untouched. That's why the Zohar brings this whole idea of Melech l'Sad Nevad in the beginning of Parshas Chayei Sarah, because it's relating to how Sarah was special. She went down and came out unaffected. So now let's see the mimer inside after we've done the Zohar and all this, and let's see if we can make sense of this very, very interesting mystical idea, which is very hard to understand, but hopefully it will come together for us. So what does the pasuk say? Im besad yamatze ish. If in the field the man is found as the man found the girl, hamurasa, this engaged woman. Now every neshama is engaged, betrothed to God. A neshama is betrothed to Hashem. So every neshama is called naira hamurasa. It's not like we're free. We're not single. A Jew is not single. A Jew is married to God. If we're married to God, leave the neshama alone. We're already designated. So if the Yetzirah, the Klippa, comes and does something to the neshama, it's the Klippa has to be put to death. And he takes hold of her. The pasuk says only the man should be killed. Because in the field he found her. Hanarah, the girl crawled out. No one was there to help her. So when the Zoyar and Parshas Chayei, this parsha, Pasach Reb, who is the one who opened up, Rebbe Lazar. Rebbe Lazar is the one who says, "V'Yisroel eretz bakoilhu melech l'sada nevad." So I brought that pasuk earlier. Ad the isada ve'isada. The Zohar says there is a field and there is a field. Ki b'sada mitzah, because she was found in the field. Ayin sham. That's. Oh, so I forgot to read you the finishing of the Zohar. So that's what the Zohar says. We'll begin kach soyer the Rosh Chodesh. That's why we have the field. Every Rosh Chodesh, which we know Rosh Chodesh is a feminine day. It's a day of Malchus. That's why for women, Rosh Chodesh is a Yom Tov. And Rosh Chodesh is associated with the moon. And the moon is Malchus. And the moon has what we call Pigimas HaLevana. The Pagam of the Levana is that the Klippas have an Achiza, have something on the moon that they cause a Pigima. And what do we do on Rosh Chodesh? We do a tikkun. We offer the Eibishter says, bring a kapara on me that I made the moon small. Which means I made the moon vulnerable to attack. I need a kapara. It's the Eibishter needs a tikkun on this. Begin this parasha who saw the Mamalka Kadisha. Because that field became separated. V'lo sharyan b'hai sada b'rchon b'hai melech. And v'kadi unevad l'hai sada k'den ksiv ki b'sada mitzah v'goyim zedek amodim itmar. Very good. So the Zohar brings this idea, in the field the girl was found. And that's why the Zohar says like this, Tochazi, Oses Chava la'alma, Chava came to the world, is Dapikis b'hai chivya, the snake got a hold of her, V'otel b'zaham, and he put injected his venom, V'garmis moisa la'alma labale, it caused death, because the snake is death, so he put death into her, and then she passed it on to her husband. Oses Sarah, but Sarah came, V'nachsis v'salkis, she descended into the lion's den, into the snake's territory, but Veloy is dapkispa, and they couldn't get a hold of her. That's the idea of Ayal Avram in Mitzrayim, who the Ishtoi v'chol ashaloi. So Sarah, according to the Zohar, Sarah did a tikkun on the Eitz Hadas. So in a sense, Avram and Sarah are already Mashiach. Then it has to just play itself out over thousands of years. But the inyan, the tikkun pnimi, happened already. Okay. And because the Zohar says, because Avram and Sarah lo yizdapkuba, because the snake did not get a hold of not to Sarah, and as a result of not getting to Sarah, he couldn't get to Avram either. Begin kach Sarah zachsin l'chayin ilon. That's why she was zoicha to Chayei Sarah, to higher life, Meya Shana, Esrim Shana, Sheva Shanim, which represent the highest levels of holiness and godliness. All of this, she was zeicha to that, because you can't be zeicha to that if you have snake contamination. But she didn't have it, so she was clean. So now she's a keli for all the giluyim, for all the great light. Okay. So now we go back here. Ayin Shah. Lahavin Maimer Zeh. To understand what the Zohar is talking about. Tzarech lahagdem tchila, we first have to preface. Inyan Maimer Rizal. What does it mean, this Maimer Rizal? Hayadua Shabon Nachash al Chava, that the snake had relations with Chava, v'hitl b'zahama, and he put his venom into her. Hina Yadua, it is known. Inyan Kuf Chav Tzerufei Elokim Shebemalchus. Every sphera, every attribute has another name of God associated with that attribute. Okay? So for instance, Kale, the name Kale is the name of Hashem that is active in Chesed, an attribute of Chesed. When the Eibishter is mislabish in Sfiras HaTeferes, it's called Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei. When Hashem is mislabish, different Sfiras, different names. One of the names associated with Sfiras HaMalchus is Elokim. Elokim is Malchus. Two names. Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud is Malchus, and also Elokim is really Gevura. Chesed is Kale, and Elokim is Gevura. But since Malchus is primarily developed through Gevura, The main energy that flows into Malchus, to develop Malchus, is Gevura, like it says in the Pasuk, where in Ashrei, what does it say? Kvoid Malchuscha Yomeru Ugvurascha Yedaberu. That Gevura is what structures Malchus. As the Pasuk also says, Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz. A king is full of judgment. A king is a ruler. How is a ruler? And a king has a certain, in order for the king to be able to rule, there is to be strictness and so on and so forth. So the kingship is based on, it's developed through Gevura. So since Elokim is the name of Gevura, Elokim is also the name of Malchus. Fine. Now we know that there's something called tzirufim. What are tzirufim? Tzirufim are different permutations of a name. So if you take every name, you can rearrange the letters in many different ways. And it combines, creates different tzirufim. So we can understand that Hashem's name, Elokim, the original form is Elokim. Once you start once you start playing around with those letters and you start moving the letters, the aleph is no more in the front, but the aleph moves to the end and so on and so forth. And so from 5 letters, you can create 120 tzirufim. Just with the words aleph, lamed, hey, yud, mem, you can combine it 120 different ways. So it says that the hashpah from Malchus into the world, the hashpah from Malchus, from the Shekhinah into the world, which Malchus is the name of Elokim, its influence into the world is through the 120 tzirufim of the name Elokim. So we can say all that happens in the world is from the tzirufim, which is related to these 120 tzirufim. Now from these 120 permutations, it says like this, that 72 of them, 72 are judgment. It's Elokim. Elokim is always judgment. But they're sweet judgments. They're judgments that they're called Gevuros Memutakos. They're sweetened judgments. And he's going to explain it really well. What's the idea of sweetened judgments? So they're positive. The last 48, those are the first 72 tzirufim of the name Elokim. The final, how much are left over to 120? 48. The last 48 tzirufim of Shem Elokim are very harsh. And that's what's called, and that's where extreme punishment and destruction comes from. We don't want those 48 tzirufim being active. Where was it active? In Mitzrayim, when the Eibishter gave Makkos to Mitzrayim. Oisois umoivsim bi'admas b'nei. There were signs and wonders in the land, b'nei Cham. Cham is Gematria 48. So, on the one hand, the punishments to the Mitzrim were not kindness. They were pure judgment, pure forces of wreckage. Hashem unleashed extreme destruction on Mitzrayim, but also even before that. The reason why the Mitzrim got a unleashment of these 80 Hashem unleashed upon them, these 48 tzirufim of the name Elokim to wreak havoc on Mitzrayim, is because even before that, they themselves, Mitzrayim themselves, the B'nai Cham, their existence, their whole life is deriving energy from these 48 tzirufim, because here's the idea. The last 48 tzirufim, the dinim are extremely harsh. Now, part of dinim can be translated to 2 things. Dinim, which means judgments, can translate as punishments and like anger and wrath. But dinim also dinim means that the energy gets very, 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 very constricted. Part of the other side of din is gevura, which gevura means very constriction. When God's energy comes to the world and it's extremely, extremely, extremely constricted, what does it do? It translates that the recipients of these energy are receiving it in a manner where they're very, 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 very disconnected from Elokus, from Getlichkeit. And they become very rebellious and they become very corrupt. That's why the worst of the worst was Mitzrayim. Because Mitzrayim is Admas B'nei Cham, B'chlal, Shem, Cham, and Yafes, the 3 groups of humanity. The Chamites are receiving from the last 48 constrictions, and that's the reason why, until they're fixed, it's in a state of extreme tzimtzumim and gevuris, which allows for them to be very, very egotistical. For example, Nimrod, he came from Canaan. He was one of the Canaan kings. He comes from that lineage. So therefore he was moired in the Eibishter. Mitzrayim was, and part of what happens to Chamites, because they come from a place of such constriction, they can be corrupt. And more than that, their corruption can express itself also in being extremely harsh judgments, which means they become very cruel. And the Jewish people, Nebuch, received the brunt of their cruelty, as they oppressed the Jewish people mercilessly. That merciless is because they are receiving from these 48 tzirufim, and therefore their very makeup of their DNA is of these harsh judgments, and because of these harsh judgments, they themselves are very into causing pain and suffering and the like. So we can imagine Nebuch, what Hashem subjected the Jewish people to. But then, what happens is, since they are Adnas B'nei Cham, the very 48 powers of Elokim turned on them, and the harsh judgments came down to destroy them. See how it works? It's all, their chayus is from the 48 tzirufim. That allows them to rebel against the Eibishter, like, what's his name? Like Parei says, Lo yadaiti as Hashem, I don't know as Hashem. And Mitzrayim was the source of black magic, of all sorcery, of all kinds of dark stuff, and immorality and everything, because it's intense unholiness, but then, and cruelty and all of that, and then, but what happens, they themselves are destroyed from that chum. So now let's read Azay. In a Yedua Inyan Kufchav Tzirufei Elokim Sheba Malchus. It is known the 120 tzirufim of Elokim that are in Malchus. Mem Ches Tzirufim Hem de Elokim Acherim. And it's interesting. There's a concept called Elohim, Elokim, and then there is a concept called Elokim Acherim. Elokim Acherim means foreign gods. How can there be such a thing as a foreign god? How can? And we're using the name Elokim. Why would you use the name of Elokim? And the answer is, because the Elokim becomes so constricted, it becomes so filtered, so concealing on Elokus, it can create that the creature who is receiving starts believing in himself as a god, and he becomes an Elokim Acherim. Is that what I'm saying? The Elokim Acherim, foreign gods, is coming from the immense constrictions of Shem Elokim. When Shem Elokim becomes so constricted, that's why it says, the Elokim Acherim derive their energy from the last 48 tzirufim. The last 48 combinations of Elokim can create the idea of Elokim Acherim. Elohim Acherim. Hanikra, that's also called Admas B'nei Cham. The lands of Cham. Okay. Now, what's left over that's not so dark? Chas v'shalom. What's left over? The Ayin-based Tzirufei de Kedusha. And then there are 72, which, by the way, 72 is Gematria Chesed. That means that the first 72 Tzirufim of Elokim, there is still Chesed. What's Chesed? Chesed means expansion. It's not so Gevura. The Gevura is mixed with Chesed. That's why it's 72. 70 Tzirufim, where Chesed is still influencing the Gevura. So the Gevura is not so intense. So that it allows, then those 72 are the Tzirufim of holiness. And from these 70 Tzirufim of holiness, Iker Yenikas Tzirufim de Elokim Acherim. Understand something? The 48 Tzirufim that are already becoming forces in Klippa, forces of unholiness, derive their energy from the 72 Tzirufim, which are still unholy. That means like this: the 48 tzirufim of Elokim Acherim can't receive from a place that's not Elokim, because over there the energy is too vast, too intense, too godly, they would blow a fuse. They would be destroyed completely. Klippas would be blown, shredded to pieces. So the unholy the latter 48 tzirufim of the name Elokim that becomes the energy of the forces of darkness that are in the world, they derive their energy from the 72 tzirufim that are before that. As it says, Aru Aru Ada Yesoidaba. When it speaks about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, it says, Aru Aru, dig, dig, till the foundation. Kidu, as it is known, he doesn't give much explanation what he means from this, but it seems like what it means is that ultimately they go up to the Yesoid, higher and deeper into Malchus, higher into the inner tzirufim of Shem Elokim, to start the process of deriving of Yanika taking energy. But let's understand, what does this mean? This distinction that Malchus has two types of tzirufim. There is the first 72, which are not harsh judgments, and there are 48 that are harsh judgments. The idea of Malchus, what's Malchus? Malchus is the Eibishter is king over the world, but how does kingship work? There's mishpat. Mishpat is judgment. So simply you learn Melech b'mishpat yamid oretz is that when a king is a king, he sets rules. And mishpat, we usually perceive mishpat as what? As dinim. But the Zohar says mishpat ihu rachame. That mishpat is a different word. Mishpat is not din. Din is din. Roigez, anger, wrath. Mishpat is very compassionate judgment. It's judgment, but compassionate laws. In other words, there's laws. When a king governs, but he governs full of compassion, full of empathy, that kind of a is called mishpat. So now the question is, v'yadua, the mishpat iyu rachami. The Zohar says that mishpat is rachamim. So then the question is, how can it be then din? Ve'eich hiya hadin v'hamishpat la'anei sharashayim rachamim v'chesed. Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz means that the Eibishter, that when God rules the world, he rules it with what? With a reckoning. He punishes the wicked and rewards the good. So there is accountability. The simple meaning of Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz means that the Eibishter, who's the Melech, establishes the world, and he demands accountability. Good deeds are rewarded, evil deeds are punished. Right? So the question is, but how can punishment be considered rachamim? If he's punishing the bad guys, why is that rachamim? In what sense is that mercy? It's explained elsewhere. The yesh b'hakos harasha mem malkus chasadim. When a wicked person is given 40 lashes, how many lashes do we give? In the Torah, there's such a concept called lashes. When a person does a sin, you get malchus. How many? 40. Actually, 39. 40 chasarach, 39. Okay. So even though you look at it, you say, man, oh my, look at this. I mean, we know that it's hard for us in a modern world to accept that there's such a thing in Judaism, that if someone ate a cheeseburger and they were witnesses, they would bring him to the court and they would administer 40 lashes. And these lashes were not a picnic. They had to be evaluated if they can survive. How many? Most people couldn't take the 40. They would get 10, 20. We're talking about serious lashes. So we understand that if this happens in Pakistan or papers like this, no. But we, the Jewish people, to do this, it seems like it's unbefitting to the... So he says, no. Because really, it's what? There is a lot of chasadim. There's a lot of chesed there. Ugvurais. There's both. Chasadim ugvurais. There's chesed and gevura. And he doesn't mean only lashes. He's giving the example of lashes. But it's all punishment. Ha-gevuras v'hadin hu'aka atzma. What's the gevura? It's a blend. The beating itself, when the guy is there with the whip and he's raining down blows, that's very harsh. That's real gevura. And someone with a soft heart can't watch it, can't see it, right? It's horrible. Hawaka atzma shemiyasrim gufay. They're causing the person immense pain. But after the person gets the lashes. What happens? What does the pasuk say? V'nikla achicha. The pasuk says the moment they've gotten the lashes, he's your brother again. He's clean. He's your brother. So when we realize that an avera, if we think about it this way, that a sin is a horrible infection that can literally destroy a person's soul. And when they get the lashes, what does the lashes do? It might be painful for the moment, but what does it do? It purifies the soul for whatever reason. That pain and suffering purifies the soul. And now the person is out of danger. So we realize that it's real kindness. If you don't administer the lashes, then this person is going to die with this horrible disease on his neshama, and who knows what kind of eternal suffering they're going to have of Yenevelt. So in order that they shouldn't have that, and they should be able to live a life, so you have to do the lashes. So the lashes might seem to be cruel, but the real kavanah is because I care, and we want to fix the problem. He's back your brother again. You can restore him to his status. So this is a true chesed, lenafshay, to the person's neshama. But the chesed is hidden. While the beating is taking place, what do you see? What are you seeing? What's visible? You're seeing the harshness. You're seeing the punishment. Kamoi. Or example, sheyaka es benoy liyasroi. When someone beats his son. When a father hits his son. Liyasroi. Kedei sheyaziv darkei resha. That the child should leave go of his evil ways. Shebeshas hakod dafka. So here's an interesting thing. When does a parent love their child? Actually, at the moment they're hitting them, they're loving them more than when they're not hitting them. Meaning, I don't mean dafka hitting and punishment. Because a mother that can take her child and discipline her child, even though the child is crying and her heart goes out for the child, but she knows that this 3-year-old needs a serious discipline because he's done something very dangerous. So her love is very intense at that moment that she can overcome her natural maternal feeling of trying to be nice to her kid and causing her child a lot of anguish and pain. So that dafko ikar chesed that soften beliboy. There's the main kindness to the child. It's easy to give candy to a child and to spoil the child. It's a whole other thing to give tough love. The more you care about the child, that the child should not have fallen into evil ways, the greater the love, the more intense the punishment might be. Because the more I care about you, the more it's hurting me that you ran across the street without looking, and God forbid a car, you were so close, chas v'shalom, that a car could have harmed this child. So the child needs a serious discipline. Yimtzo, hakazu, this hitting, ain't din amiti. It's not really judgment. Because of its toyelas. In other words, when you're looking at it from the perspective of the gain, it's not a negative. Even though on the side of the beating itself, it's painful to the body, but that's not the intention. It's really full of kindness. And another example, he says, it says your right hand should always bring close and the left hand should always reject. It's the same idea. The real kindness is the left hand that's rejecting. Behelim. What's the example? We're talking about a father and a son. The father is the teacher, the son is the student. And the father sees that the son is not taking his classes seriously. The son is doing things that are very unbefitting for him. He's wasting his time. He's not working. He's coarse. So he teaches him, and he sees that the son is not appreciating the inner light of these teachings. So the father might do is forbid his son to come to class. Say, I'm not learning with you. I'm talking about where there is a relationship. Sadly, there's so many stories where kids don't have a relationship with the parents. He doesn't want to even learn with the father. I say there's no connection. When the father is a very wise father, the child would dream to sit with his father. And when the father sees that the son is not implementing what he's teaching him the way he should. He's taking it for granted. He's wasting it, and so on and so forth. So the father might be tough on his child and tell him, I'm not learning with you tomorrow. And the kid says, what? Or I'm not learning with you for the week. Or for a month. To the child, it's horrible. But the father, so he's pushing him. But why is the father doing it? Because he loves him. Because he realizes as a result of that rejection, the child is going to realize that, what, I got to fix, I got to put my act together so that I can come back. A father might kick his son out of the business, same thing. Out. It doesn't mean it's forever. It's not like he disowns him. We're soon going to see a situation where a father disowns a child. That's real gevura. When you disown completely, real gevura. But here it's not a disowning. Here it's a temporary suspension of the closeness, smoil doiche, and the purpose of this temporary suspension of the closeness is because it's going to force you to become what? More worthy. That's than it could. The father sees because of the coarseness of his hasaga. And his negative midas. He's not able to receive the light of the hashpa in a manner of closeness. And revealed love. Because the coarseness of the child is causing whatever he's giving him to be coarsened. Till he can take it completely out of context and use it in a negative way. Because the father has compassion and kindness, ka'avas ben, the love of a father to a son, the father will distance the child with powerful rejections. He will reject him, in a sense, very, very harshly. He might show him cruelty and be very, very mean to him. He might, as if he doesn't tolerate him anymore. Now, to an observer watching a father kicking his child out of the house, the observer is looking at it and says, what a cruel father. It looks like it's true. But in truth, it's his tremendous love that he has, that is hidden in his heart, that's causing the father to increase the distance. And the more he loves him, the greater the love, the more intense the love, the more will be the punishment, the intention, the dilemma. Another example. Why the Alter Rebbe gives 3 examples, but he gives another example. A little child gets dirty, gets filthy. And the mother has to take up, you ever see a mother pick up a child and bring him to the sink, and the child has got peanut butter and chocolate and everything on their face, and the mother sits and scrubs, and the child is like, right? The fights and is yelling and screaming because the child doesn't want to be washed. But it's for the good of the child to be washed, or else the child's going to become a stinking child. Right? The mother can't leave the child become a stinking, gooky child. So she has to clean him. It's painful. Sometimes she has to use hot water. Sometimes the mother's going to have to take soap and maybe even a sponge if they really got themselves stained with something, and rub, and for the little baby, the hot water and the soaping and the scrubbing is very painful. But the mother won't care. The child is screaming, and the mother who loves the child, someone walks in, a neighbor, and sees a child screaming and the mother causing the pain. Says, what a crazy mom. But doesn't realize how intense the love is to be able to do that. That's the idea. When you wash a small child, from his filth, even though the kid is crying, they clean the diaper. Now sometimes the kid gets a rash, and cleaning the diaper really hurts. And the mother has to clean him, or else his diaper rash is going to get much, much worse. Kid is screaming. I remember those days. Not for myself. I don't remember being cleaned like that, but I remember cleaning my kids. But there is a te'elis, she'yenaki, that'll be clean. So the same translates when God is cleaning us sometimes, and it hurts, and we're screaming, and so why is Hashem punishing me? Hashem dislikes me. Not necessarily. The father doesn't care, because the child is crying. Because this is the kindness. That's called the 72 Tzerufim of Elokim. Because that's compassionate judgment. The 48 Tzerufim of Shem Elokim is when you dislike someone and you're really, really, really going to give it to them, to destroy them. These are sweetened judgments. There is a case. There are cases when it's going to be real din, where there is no kindness at all. What happens when someone is given the death penalty? They're not given the penalty of lashes. Lashes, I'm giving you the lashes, so maybe you'll be injured for what? For a month or two. But afterwards, you're going to be brought back into society. You're going to be a healthy human being living amongst people, and we won't be afraid that you're going to act out because you remember you got the lashes, and that kind of fixed you up a little bit. Fine. So you can see the compassion on it. But when you're giving someone the death penalty, kaputa, you're finishing them, means you're destroying them. So that is a destruction, and there's no gain because they're dead after the punishment. So when Hashem prescribes the death penalty, does that mean God is the ultimate now cruelty, chas v'shalom? No, because Hashem appreciates that the person doesn't end by their death; they're continuing. And for whatever reason, their infection is so bad that they can't have a tikkun in any way while they're alive. So they go through death, and the death cleans them so that they can go on in their afterlife and be in a very good place. So there too, it's a chesed. But that's only from God's perspective. Looking at it down here, we don't see the tikkun happening, at least in our realm. They ended his life completely. He won't be alive anymore. Because based on this sin, the Beis Din saw, this person doesn't have a tikkun al yedei yisurim through the punishments until he will literally die. There will be a tikkun to his neshama b'chaya olam haba, in the world, in the life of the world to come. But in this world, ein loy tikkun, the person doesn't have a tikkun because of the greatness of the sin. Yimtzo comes out that at least in as much as this world is concerned, nasa din kasha l'nafshoy. In our realm, very harsh judgment has been done, and it's pure judgment, at least in our realm. Sometimes with a father and a child, it can be that way, that a father can become so disenchanted with his child that he says, you know what, I'm writing you out of the will permanently. Out. That's a real gevura. Shehu hamar belipshoya, because the child has been so rebellious, b'chol darkei haresha, and so evil, and done such corruption and such crime. V'lo ye'ilu lo yisurim. So to push him away, to reject him for a month or two, a week or two, or some kind of a punishment, it's not going to work. He's chas v'shalom, a situation where as a parent he realizes that the child is beyond repair. Shaz nifsek olav adina amiti, then it requires the ultimate judgment. Sheyurchik b'emes. It's like Sarah demanded that Avram should do what to Yishmael? Kick him out completely, write him out. So you see that's like, it wasn't meant that he will come back. In the end, because of Avram's kindness, even Yishmael came back. Avram prayed for him. But the etzem etzat Sarah, out. From the light of the flow of this father. This is not considered a small, you're rejecting him, you're min mekareves, so later you can bring him close. Afterwards he's not having any kiruv. He pushes him away completely. Elisha pushed Gehazi away. And that's why we know that Gehazi went and became a corrupted person, because he was completely rejected. But Chazal say the same thing about who? Chazal say the same thing about Yashka, that the sages pushed him away, and because of that, look what he created. Look what our monster he created, that the Jewish people suffered for thousands of years from this rejection, that they rejected him instead of kind of figuring out, but I guess on their estimation, he was beyond repair. So this is all a mashal in the way the Shechina, Malchus, which is the Shechina, runs the affairs of the world. Yesh ayim beis tzerufim. There are 72 tzerufim. Pchenas bezdin shalamayla. In the bezdin of above, which are the names of Elokim, which is the God's court, which is the court of Malchus, of the Shechina. There are 72 tzerufim. Hamanhigim kol ha'olamos, that conduct the affairs of the whole world's judge. In heaven, they're always judging. There is always a judgment on everything. But the way it's judged in all worlds is sometimes they see a problem. So what do? They administer some kind of harshness, but there is always an interest in what? What's the interest? Through the 72 tzirufim of the name Elokim, the interest is always the tikkun. Even if for whatever reason at times you have to give a certain creation or a certain world or a certain people or a certain community or whatever it is, a certain squeeze, the interest is always the tikkun. You don't want chas v'shalom, the punishment. The biyah, in all the worlds of bria, yitzir, and asiya, neshamis, umalachim, and malachim, al pidinu mishpat shalahem, according to the judgment, lahashpil, to lower them, ulaharim, or to raise them up. So, but all these considerations, the Elokim the Kedusha, these are the Elokim of holiness. Kihu rachamim, it's be'etzem, kindness, compassion. V'tikkun ha'olamos, and it's certain tikkunim, certain corrections that need to be made in the world, even though temporarily it looks like what? Even though temporarily it looks like some kind of a harshness. V'ikar siyim kiyom shifam epnimius midas malchus datzilus, and the main sustainability that they're going to be able to continue to exist in the Eibishter's empire. And the chas v'shalom, God is not going to have to amputate them from the world. God is not going to have to chas v'shalom cut them off completely. So in order to save that amputation, Hashem might treat that limb or that particular part of creation to some harshness so that it can cleanse itself and purify itself. It will be humbled. Like happens many times when people go through certain hard times, it humbles them. They do tshuva and they put their act together, and and then they come back in and they can live a happier life. And dafka, their hardship brought them to that better state. But then there are the outer realms of existence, where there are worlds or entities that are totally severed from God. Hanekras Adnas b'nei Cham. That's the lands of Cham. Canal Iker Sibasis Savusam Shalahem. Their main hishavos, their main coming into being, Memidas Malchusa Yisbarach, from the attribute of Malchus, who memem chest tzerufim achroinim de'elokim. They're deriving their energy from the 48 tzerufim of the name Elokim. Shehu kamay al derech mashal din hakasha sheyesh ba'amelech. It's really harsh judgments that the king might have, lanai sharasha mamish, to punish literally the wicked, ulahafsik chayav, and to completely disconnect his life, or larchikai be'emes, or to distance him completely. Kamoi kain hechlikon ve'efrida machtusa yizbarach. The Eibishter created certain creatures or certain beings, not out of chesed, with kindness, but with a desire that they should serve as, maybe for whatever reason they have a certain, in other words, God creates certain klippas that are such tense klippas, they're not really rectifiable. They exist so that they can be destroyed, and they're needed for the world. They have a certain pu'ula in the world. We're going to see that these malachim, or these entities that create from here, they enjoy, it says in Chassidus, that there are certain malachim that actually enjoy wreaking havoc and pain. There are certain angels, they're called wicked angels, that they enjoy bringing wreckage and havoc and suffering. And Hashem uses them sometimes, but even though Mitzad Hashem is executing something with kindness, but the henchmen themselves start enjoying it, and they become. We once discussed this whole. It's a mimer that Tzemach Tzedek that we learned, an unbelievable mimer about the Savaro Eish B'Moshe Seichem and Derech Mitzasecha. Tzemach Tzedek talks about this idea of Shluchei Hadin that become what are they called? They're sadistic be'etzem. Huh? That Paro was punishment because he did not take it with the kavanah of tikkun, he takes it to his own, like, yeah. It's like a father who wants to discipline his child, and he gives him over to a certain instructor, and he gives him instructions out of it, and then that instructor himself becomes sadistic as the child is misbehaving, and the father comes in one day and he sees him like doing who knows what to the son. So he realizes, I gave you to be harsh with him because he needed to learn a lesson, but I didn't ask for that, and a must. These forces that exist from the 48 Adnas B'nei Cham, and that's Paretaka, he's from the Adnas B'nei Cham, that have that. V'hein heim ha-mekatrigim, these are the malachim that are mekatrig, which means these are the prosecutors or the accusers. V'malachim ra'im, and evil, wicked angels. Sheba'olam ha-sanefradim, that exist in the worlds of separation. They come from this, they don't know any better from this, they're wicked, they're bad, and they're not good for existence. Ultimately, we need to cut them off. So that's Perek Aleph. Once we've now established that in Malchus, which means in the Shekhinah, that runs the world with Mishpat, there's two types of Mishpat. There is Mishpat that's Mishpat, and then there is harsh judgments from 40. Malchus, as we said earlier, his Gavaldige Inyan, Malchus, as we said earlier, is a recipient. Malchus is the power that actually executes everything in creation. But Malchus is like speech. The king commands. It's the edict, the words. Beyond words has to be someone who has feelings and emotions that create those words, that create those attitudes. There's a source of it. That's why Malchus is a keli. It needs to receive from who? From her husband, from the mashpia. If Malchus has these two types of actions that are gevura, and actions that are extremely harsh and negative and bring a lot of devastation in the world. In other words, there's God acting with compassion, judging, and there is statements where the Shekhinah does certain things in this world that are extreme. You realize, we're dealing over here, it's these malachim that execute. But it begins with the 48, that means emanating from the Shekhinah. That the Shekhinah's got this rage in her that it's a destructive rage, right? Kiviyachal, you can say that, but that's what it is. We never want that destructive side of the Shekhinah to be active. But how does the Shekhinah receive it? The Shekhinah is just a vessel to pass on. It means from her husband, from Yisoid, it's being nishpa into her gevuros. And there are two types of gevuros that are being nishpa into her. When Yisoid is being mashpia to her ordinary gevuros, it translates on the execution end as dinim, judgments, but judgments with good intention. But when Yisoid is mashpia to Malchus, a very intense gevura, we're going to see what that means on the mashpia, on the Yisoid's level, then Malchus receives it and it becomes, so even though while it's coming from Yisoid, it's not so harsh, because understand something, the higher you go in the Eberster, the higher you go into the Pnimius, it's always less dinim, less judgments and less harsh and more godly, the deeper you go in. So even though it's not as bad as in Malchus, but it's the source of all that intense punishments and intense stuff that are happening in the world. That hashpah comes from shame. Now, here's an amazing thing. Shakai, it can blow your mind. Shakai is the name associated with, I said before, every name of Hashem, Sphira, Kea, Yisoid, the name of Yisoid is Shakai, Shin Daled Yud, is the name of Yisoid, the Mashpia. Various different reasons why that is. It's called Shakai. The Acharayim of the name Shakai. Now, I didn't figure out how that is. I usually know how to do an Acharayim Gematria. Acharayim Gematria is a certain way of doing a Gematria, whatever. But he says in the Mimer that the Acharayim of the name of Shakai, the Milui of the Acharayim of the name of Shakai, is Gematria Nachash, snake. That means that there is a hashpah coming from Yisoid to Malchus, that's the snake. It's still a snake of Kedusha, because it's Yisoid, it's godly, but it's already a snake. That's the source that the snake has relations with Chai. Is that there's very harsh gevuras being inserted in Malchus, and then Malchus acts in a way of extreme judgments in the world. So when we're tzaddikim, for instance, that are always trying to sweeten judgments, is you want to, and that has to do with Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe Rabbeinu hung up the snake, what was he busy doing it? Because when those snakes came and attacked the Jewish people, that was one of these, because come on, the Eibster doesn't, if you don't like your children, not you don't like them, you want to punish your children, will you unleash snakes on them? Imagine. Okay. I mean, there's other things. But, so it almost seems like at that moment when the Jews were attacked by poisonous, venomous snakes in the Midbar, it wasn't a act of what? Compassionate judgment. It was like the Shechina, I had it. Out. It's a harsh judgment. So in order to make a tikkun on that, you have to get back to the shorish. What was the shorish of it? The hashpah from Yisroel to Malchus on a level of snake, as he's going to explain. And that's the source of the mem ches tzerufim of Admas b'nei Cham. So this snake idea. It translates, in Atzilus, the snake is being mashpiyah to Malchus, these gevuras. Once Malchus comes down into the lower worlds, the true snakes, the real klippas that are real snakes, they now rape the Shekhinah as well, which means, and that's when it becomes real dark energies and very, 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 very extreme punishments, judgments, horrible things that can happen in the world, chas v'shalom, as a result of that. And that's negative. And we're going to see, so what's the tikkun for that? We don't want to, but at least we, so, Uli Yois, and as it is known, Beis. Ki Yedua, it is known, Shem Malchus Datzilus. It is known that Malchus of Atzilus, who makar kol ha-makablim. She's a makabel, she's a recipient. She's the source of all the recipients. She receives the general shefa from the supernal midos. The ikar binyana mahagvurais, and the main binyan malchus is from gevura that she receives. Piddish shemekabelus shefa mepchenes gevurais deza. She receives her shefa from the gevura of the ze'er anpin. Remember, the ze'er anpin is the masculine midos, which are masculine. That's the husband. And since we see at the execution level, at the output, when Malchus puts out what her decrees are. Malchus is the king giving decrees, what the edicts are. That there are edicts. You realize, now you're looking at this, let's think something. The Alter Rebbe is from the tzaddikim, from the students of the Baal Shem Tov. One of the things the students of the Baal Shem Tov always had to deal with was what? When you hear any stories of the Rabbi Levi Yitzchak or Barditchev, Rabbi Noam Elimelech, Kazhnitz Magid, what are you dealing with? They were able to tune in and see harsh decrees coming. And what were they doing? They needed to sweeten these judgments and change it. So here you have, it's almost like a Shulchan Aruch, an instruction manual for mituk hadinim, for sweetening judgments, because you actually identify over here what they're dealing with. When Malchus gives out one of the 48 tzirufim, meaning there is a Hashem is the Shekhinah is in a state of those is then in a state of those Elokim acherim and those intense judgments. That's creating very negative stuff in the world, and we don't want that. So we need to switch them to the higher levels of Elokim that are full of Chesed, or even deeper than that. We have to be Megala Havaya, where there's no dinim at all, no judgments at all, and it sweetens it completely. So as we're going to see. We see the difference in the Gevuras of Malchus. Elokim, the Kedusha, and Elokim of holiness. Shu Melech b'mishpat. We see the two types of mishpat, Keniskel, as we said earlier. That's number one. Oh, sorry. What's the Hefresh? The Hefresh is we see Elokim, the Kedusha, which are Melech b'mishpat. There's judgment, but very sweet judgment. And Ubchinas Elokim acherim u'adin akasha. We see very harsh judgments, Keniskel that we said earlier. Mukhrach, we have to say, Shegam ba'oir hazaru ala tzadik, that also the oir, the light that's being planted in Malchus from tzadik, Yisod is called tzadik. Tzadik Yisod Olam. from the level of tzaddik, that's Chayei Lamim, who's called the light, Chayei Lamim. Malchus is Chayim, life, but Chay, the inner life force of life, is coming from Yesod. B'malchus d'Atzilus, in Malchus of Atzilus. Gam ken yeh hefresh zeh, you will also find in Yesod, this hefresh, bein shefa gvuros memutakos, that Yesod is imbuing in Malchus the gvuros memutakos, which means sweetened judgments. The gvuros kashos, the chas v'shalom, harsh judgments. Well, to understand this, in a mevua b'mashal now that is explained in the mashal, b'melech hagashmi, when it comes to a physical king, espashtos midas malchus loden v'lishpait, when his midah of malchus goes out, it expands to judge the people. B'gvuros memutakos, when he's being a compassionate ruler. He's a ruler. It's not a hefkerveld. People, but he's judging compassionately. He's punishing compassionately, right? Perishayas mishpat v'tikun, that he's doing a mishpat, but he's doing it in a manner of what? Or tikun. Or as we said earlier, yaseh ba'avad of din gomer. Or there is chas v'shalom, a case where he does real judgment. Avol kol ze eino yalo b'pchenase his galos. This is only on the level of his galos of revelation. Hu apsak v'hadin. What is the edict? What's coming out of his mouth? Shegoyzer v'oymer b'piv, where that which he's decreeing in his mouth, lasoid le'eved ploini kach v'kach, to do to this servant, or to this whatever, to do so and so. Ukedoim v'im kein hoya asiya v'dibur zeh. But you understand something? If the king is giving an edict, the edict is first where? In his emotion. It's how the king is feeling about that servant. The king, so that's already beyond Malchus. Malchus' speech is the executor. Beyond Malchus is the emotions. What's higher than Malchus? Chesed Gevur, which are the midos. It's the emotions. It's how the king's attitude to these people. So that also depends. If the king's attitude to the person is, you know what? I like him, but they can do much better. I like him. I want to keep him on you see Trump every day, he's firing people, right? You know? Some people he's not firing. He keeps on his cabinet, but he expects of them better, you know? It'd be probably a tough boss to work for, right? But then he gets upset out if you fall out of his grace. Emissaries that told Trump we didn't have Meshalim. The old mashal of a king in Chassidus went away when the Tsar died. That's what it is. When the Tsar died in Russia, when the Tsar was killed, there was a Chassid that was crying, not because the Tsar was alone. He said, "Says gegangen a mashal from Chassidus is gone." When the Tsar died, he cried because he says, "We're not going to have any more a mashal." Chassidus is always giving an analogy of a king. Now, when you have a socialist government, you don't have a king anymore. It doesn't exist. So, but now, as Achana to Melech HaMashiach, the Eibishter gave us a Trump. He's like a little bit of an emperor, you know. He runs things the way, right? In any case, so here you have, sometimes it's like, okay, I like the guy, but I feel they can do better, so I'm going to be a little tough on them. And sometimes you fall out of grace, cut off completely. But it begins as an emotion inside. It's an attitude. That's what he's saying. So tchila b'levavi v'sichlei, first it was in the attitude in their heart and their seichel. Sheyasel aploy nikach, they will do to the person so. Fushanishpa b'levavi b'chines gevurais v'tzimtzum. First of all, the very fact that they're judging their servants means that in their heart now, when the king is in a very good mood and very happy and is very in an expansive state, he's not judging anybody. What is he judging? He's a little frustrated. He's got, things are not working out so well in the country. So he's like, I got to clean up the house here. So that's when he becomes a little more gevuradik. His general attitude becomes gevuradik. And when he becomes gevuradik, what happens? He starts judging. But in that judgment, there's two types of judgment. There are those that he wants to keep on his team, just he needs better performance. And so he's going to maybe cut their pay until they behave, till they show deserving or whatever. The person's maisim and his action, his servitude is not the way it's supposed to. The person is becoming lazy in his service. Either because it's a certain laxity. He's realizing the guy can do much better. Or he realizes that the servant is a little too comfortable. He's coming in front of the king, and he's not surrendered, he's not bottled like a servant is supposed to be before the king. And when the king sees that he has such a chutzpah, he's a yesh, he's standing in front of the king like a ganze yachka bedam, like a whole metzias. The king gets very angry. He will send him into the he'll lock him up or do something to him. What kind of punishment? Now that shefa of gevuros that is in the heart of the king, and what's really bothering the king? He's going to explain why it's called gevuros dezah. It's the gevura of the ze'er anpin, right? Why? He says, because interesting. He says the real gevura that's coming in the heart of the king, hu b'ma she'eina eved makir heitev gedulasai. Why is the servant not serving him the way he should? Because the servant is not appreciating who the king is. The king is bothered by the fact that his servant doesn't realize who he's serving. If he would know how great I am and how powerful I am, he would have more respect or fear. Or he would be more diligent and more, like you see by Paro, right? Paro got angry at his servants because he had a little, fly. He says, how dare you know who I am? I'm a ruler over the world, and you chutzpah what you are, that you don't. The more the king takes himself seriously, which means the more the king is more exalted in his own eyes, in himself, the more angrier it gets, on the weakness, on the deficiency of the service of the servant. Until he becomes very meticulous with him. Even the smallest little thing can be considered fault. Again, the higher the king perceives himself, and we're talking about a true king who maybe is taka very high, then what? The littlest thing is puzzle. Piddish. There is an attitude with the king that the king finds fault in everybody. Everybody gets punished. Why? Because even his finest servants, it's still not good enough in the eyes of the king. He's considered like a sinner. He tried, he worked so hard. The guy didn't sleep for 3 weeks. He's working like crazy to perfect his work and to make it the nicest. The king asked him to tailor something, and he comes and he makes. But the king says, this is how you present. Imagine the guy, poor guy. He gave it all he's got. Not good enough for the king. It's good. If I would have been that king, yeah, but you know, according to the greatness of the king is kalachashiv. There was a chassid who once saw, and he chassidim the great. Chassidim were just phenomenal. Everything taught them something. A chassid once watched them whipping in the Tsar's army. They were whipping a Cossack. They were mercilessly whipping him. Why was he whipped? He was whipped because it was freezing cold. He was standing outside, and he was freezing cold. And he got frostbitten, and he kind of couldn't move. When the king went by, or whatever, he couldn't, whatever, because he literally was frozen stiff. He was in a state. The king walked by. So why did they whip him? It was under fault. They said, had you appreciated what it means to be a servant, a Cossack of the king, how could you get cold like that? You should have been so warmed by that feeling itself. So the chassid took it as, the serving of the Eibishter. And you realize, how could you get cold? I mean, it's not my fault. It's so cold. I got frozen. That's because you don't know. You don't appreciate who the king is. Something like that is the story. I don't have the exact, but that was the story. Mesiras nefesh al eved, even the mesiras nefesh of the servant. This is one of the statements the Rebbe always quotes this. That you can do very good, but the way it's expected of you to do, lo yovid, you didn't do. If you know by Chassidim, the Rebbe is a king. And Chassidim always, the Rebbe wants something, a Chassid does it. But if you knew with the Lubavitch Rebbe, you knew that you never did good enough. No matter how good you did, it was always, why? It's good. But the way you should have done it, lo yavid, you didn't do. That's a certain gevura. It comes from Isnasus. Ve'ein lezeh shir klal, and there's no shir in this Indian. Shalo yezaka be'einav, it won't be accepted. Afilu ha'evod hanemon ma'oid, even the servant who is so loyal, the king can find fault in everyone. Now the Chura, think about it. Where is the Gevura coming from in this sense? So for analyzing the Gevura, page Samaches, the third line on the top, fourth line on the top. Now even though this Shefa is coming from Oitzim HaGevurais, it's coming from a very, very high level of, Oitzim HaEsnasus, it's coming from a very high level of the king being in a state of expansiveness. So l'chura, it's coming from not a place of din, of judgment. It's coming from where? A place, judgment is constriction. It's coming from the king being very what? Very, very expansive. I'm so high, I'm so... Im kozel legabei amakablim, to the recipient who din v'tzimtzum gomer. The king is never satisfied with whatever you do. Gam eitzel hamelech atzmai, but even to the king it's also din. Now he's going to explain why to the king it's also din. Because here's the thing. On the one hand, we're saying what causes the king to be so upset and never happy with whatever the people are doing, and nothing is good enough, because he's so exalted. But he says in truth, it's not really his true exaltation. It's an exaltation. He's exalted. He is beroimamus. He's in a state of elevation to his subjects. But he's not truly, truly elevated. Because the mere fact that it makes a difference to them how they serve them or not is already showing that what? That they can impact them. If he is truly, truly the king and so high and so great, then they're all nothing. If they're all nothing, why would they upset him? He's getting angry. He's getting angry because the guy did a sloppy job. But who is he? He's not even he's a nobody. The fact that he's paying attention and they can influence his mood is showing that what? That he's in a state of mind that he's not truly in his true greatness. Because in his true greatness, like we say in the Lashon, is kula kamei kalachshiv, it's all nothing. So what you really have over here is the three levels. When the king is in his truest transcendental state, then he doesn't get angry at anybody. Everything is good, everybody's happy, he can give. There's no dinim there at all. There's just chesed, infinite flow, Ein Sof. It's beautiful. Soon he's going to say that's called moichen de gadlus. The king is in a real state of expansiveness. And we're going to see soon we want the Eibishter to be in that state all the time. That the Eibishter should be operating from a state of moichen de gadlus. Because when the Eibishter is operating in a state of moichen de gadlus, Shem Havaya, it's not Shem Elokim, it's not Gevurais Dezah, it's Chesed Dezah, it's Chesed of the Zeir Anpin, it's Ein Sof, everything is Bli Gvul. And then, okay, so, the Eibishter is not medaktik with anybody, everything we do is good, because he's just happy we're doing it, but it's not. Oh. Then there's a level where the king lowers himself down all the way. When he lowers himself all the way down there, that he himself is not appreciating his own greatness. Then he might get upset at the people, but doesn't get so upset, because certain things, oh yeah, you did a pretty good job. He's satisfied. When the king is in the lower state, but within the lower state, he's elevated in himself. Within the context of being a king, that's when he gets upset. And that's when nothing is good in his eyes. It's a hisnasus. He's going to call it, it's an hisnasus of moichen de katnos. The very, moichen de katnos means constricted mind view. The very fact that the matters of the people, of his subjects, are meaningful to him, is a sign that he's not truly appreciating at this moment who he really is. So he's in a state of he allowed his kingship and his governorship he allowed himself to be identified. His identity became his relationship with them. Not appreciating his true greatness. Moichen de Katnus. But within the Moichen de Katnus, he's in a state of his God, his snasus. That's when no one is worthy in his eyes. Again, when he's in a state of Moichen de Gadlus, expansive Moichen, then the whole kingdom and all the people in it mean nothing to him. So why should he get upset at anybody? Over there, the most sloppiest job and the best job are both equal, because even the best job is nothing. Nothing. So everything is so it doesn't get upset at anybody because he's totally beyond it. That's Moichen de Gadlus. Moichen de Katnus is when he comes down and is kind of impacted. He sees himself as a king over them, and there is a relationship and there's a give and take, so to speak, between them. That's called Moichen de Katnus. But in that itself, Moichen de Katnus means constricted Moichen, because he's in a relationship with them, and they can play on his mood. Now, if he is not exalted within himself, but rather kind of, then he doesn't mind so much imperfections. But when he has a true appreciation, what are you talking about? I'm the king, and you're my servant, that this is the way you serve me? So when he rises within himself, that's called Gevurais Tezah. The Gevurais, emotionally, he rises. Gevurah is also a rising. When he rises within himself to a high place, he becomes very, very expecting and demanding, and as a result of that, upset if it's not being done perfectly. And in the truth, from this midah, Gevurais of the Zeirah, from the midas of Gevurah, even Moshe Rabbeinu is not deserving. No one is deserving. In other words, he can find fault even in the finest of servants. That's the idea of Hein Shamayim Lo Zachu Be'enav. So that's what he says. So he says, this is called din. This etzem inyan that he's getting. Why? This, that his servants, the service of his servant, occupies space in him, to the point that he gets angry. When they're not doing it the way they should, according to his true greatness. This is a tremendous shiflus to the essence of the king. He's way above them. He's way above them. Even his ultimate praise, if they all of his servants are providing the most perfect work ever. The musicians are providing the perfect music. The artists are providing the finest paint job, the finest artistry, and so on and so forth. The chefs are making the most gourmet and finest of cuisine. It's still nothing to the king. There's no relationship really from a true king to the people. To the servant's best is nothing to the king. So why is it getting to him? Why is he getting upset? The yitvois shvach v'avodas ha'eved davar v'yesh, and he's seeing that the work of his servant as something. When it's perfect, he's very happy. That it is according to his greatness. That itself, that he can appreciate it. It's really a tzimtzum to who he really is, mamish. His revelation of his greatness, in which others recognize his praise. That's where the servant is arriving. When the servant is really serving in a proper way. But to arrive to the king as the king is in his truest self, even the most perfect service, it's meaningless on that level. So therefore, when the king is mitzamtzim himself, contracts himself, to be scrutinizing the service of his king. This is called constricted mochin, Because he's lowering himself down from the idea of who he truly is. Because the Eved is now becoming a something. And this when the king doesn't care at all, whether he's praised and whether he's shamed or whatever, because even the praise is ultimately like it says by Hashem, it says, it's scary to praise him. Why? Because when you praise, what's his name, Bezos, the guy from Amazon, or whatever the other guy is, whatever these multi-billionaires, and you praise them that they have, they have a nice house in Malibu. For someone else, it's a praise. Wow, he afforded a house in Malibu, and he drives a Rolls Royce, and he has whatever other car. But for a guy like that, you're not saying his praise because it's outside. That doesn't even begin to say anything about him. When the king is in a state of moichin de gadlus, can you do it? We're going to see soon. As a result of our mitzvahs, we cause the Eibishter to be in a state of moichin de gadlus. And when the Eibishter is in a state of moichin de gadlus, there's tremendous bracha in the world because God is not being so. The Shekhinah is not being so. So what? So we go, come on, let's. And the Eibishter, everybody's making parnasa bar chava, things are flowing. And the Eibishter is happy. You're doing mitzvahs, tefillin, shabbat. Your tefillin is not so perfect. You talking in shul a little bit. It's a gate. Why? Because in general, the mood is in a state of expansiveness. If there is moichin de katnus up there in Shemayim, there's a certain constricted moichin, then there can be judgments. But now, when there is judgments in moichin de katnus, in the state of moichin de katnus, when there is judgments, there's two types of judgment. There's judgment when the king still loves the servant, he just wants him to improve. That's when he gives him Yisurim. But what kind of Yisurim are the Yisurim Shal Ava? He's being tough on him, but the toughment is not because he wants to throw him out. He wants to destroy him. He wants to improve him. And then there can be a situation where he simply dislikes someone, and he does whatever he can to finish him off. And that's called Gvurais Kashes. Now we'll understand the Nimshal above. The Chsiv, it says in the Pasuk, Shamayim lo yizachu be'enov. Heaven is not zachu, it doesn't find zchus in his eyes. U'b'malacham, and in his angels he finds yasem tahala. Even in his angels, the Eibishter defines midazu shalo yisku be'enov. This midah that they're not zoich in his eyes. Afilu ha'muvcher va'ilu she'ba'olam esalyanim. Even the choicest of the highest worlds, even the greatest celestial beings are seen by Hashem as faulty. That this midah that they're not zoich in his eyes. Even the best. That's from the gevuros of the Ze'eran, which is, on the one hand, it's moichin de katnus, but on the other hand, it's in isnasus. Because he takes himself seriously, he's being misnase. And your bittul to me, your service to me, is not the way it should really be for the Eibishter, for me. The greatness of God is endless. And since Hashem's greatness, and therefore the way he ought to be served, is with infinite perfection. So then it's not favorable in his eyes. Afilu svivav mamish. Even those closest to him are also constantly in trouble. They're constantly in trouble. The Eibishter showed Moshe Rabbeinu this midah, and what did Moshe do? He got terrified. And even Moshe Rabbeinu was like, Evod Hanemon, even he could not withstand the ultimate expectations from the Eibishter's Gevura on this level of expectation. Because his greatness is unfathomable, and therefore the expectation of the servant is also a perfect, and no matter how perfect you are, it's still faulty. A limited being should be able to serve to this high expectation. Nevertheless, even though it's in its nasus, it's still considered katnos, it's still considered constricted mochen. Because it's not his true greatness. His true greatness, then all the worlds are nothing. So why is he impacted? Why does he even care if they serve or not? It's also all garnished. It's like I gave the mashal many times. Right? A father, you have a person, he's a CEO of what? Of a major Fortune 500 company. He's sitting in the penthouse where in Manhattan in some extremely fancy building. And he's having his meeting, the once of the year meeting with the shareholders, and they're deciding, whatever. And suddenly his phone rings. He picks up the phone. It's his 6-year-old kid. It's home from the house. Probably a guy like him, his kid, 6-year-old, has a phone. Or maybe he thinks it's his wife called. Picks up, and the little kid starts telling him that the sister came and broke their Legos. It doesn't. Let's take the same father, comes home, sits down, and he's playing with his 6-year-old kid. Gets down on the floor and starts building Legos. And then the girl is in a bad mood, and she comes in and she's angry, and she kicks the thing and she breaks it. He's not just angry because she's misbehaving. He's angry because she broke the Legos. Because now he really cares about the Legos. Because he's the same CEO who you couldn't get him. But now, when he put his mind in building this train set became an inyan chashuv. It became something important. And what happens over here is really, really impacting him. So the very fact that the Eibishter is even playing around with this world, no matter how it is, it's like Hashem sitting down, it's like this father sitting down and playing with this little Lego set. For the Eibishter, it's nothing. So if the Eibishter is in a true state of Moichem de Gadlos, if that's the awareness and the consciousness in the higher worlds, which is what's nimshach through mitzvahs, then there is no dinim, there's no judgments. We're soon going to see that attitude is not either good. Perfect. I mean, it's good, but it's not. Why? Because when there's such an attitude of everything is worth, nothing is meaningful, and so on and so forth, then the hashpah can go to the bad guys too, because there's no discrimination at all. The whole thing doesn't matter. So the goodness of the world and the evil of the world is all equal, because the whole world is not. So there is very dangerous when that's open, and therefore you have to create certain parameters for that light. You want it to be that attitude, because if Chas v'Shalom Hashem is not in that attitude, but Hashem is more in the attitude of I'm a king and takes his kingship seriously, then boy, oh boy, everybody's in trouble. Everybody's in trouble. Because no matter how good you are, you're not good enough. There's a lot of dinim and judgments. And the whole attitude with the world is very judgmental. You don't want that. So you want it to be from a higher place, but you want to have some protection, which we're soon going to see how you create that protection. We're going to get to that. It's still katnas amoichin. It's the revelation of his greatness and the ways revealed. And this itself, that he should be so medaktek, hu yerida gedola. It's a tremendous descent legaba atzmos to the Eibishter. Maybe when the Alter Rebbe said this maimer, it just occurred to me. Maybe when the Alter Rebbe said this, I'm just wondering why Pashas Chayei we're holding in Pashas Bereshis. Suddenly the Maimer is suddenly speaking with so much judgments and dinim and everything, It's very possible that the Alter Rebbe said this Maimer because he saw the Eibishter was behaving a little bit from Moichem de Katnas. And the Alter Rebbe says, come on, Eibishter, come. It's takazeh, but why should you even care? You realize that if you're in a state of Moichem de Gadlos, so there's all these judgments are out the window. That could be. You never know. When tzaddikim said Torah, when they spoke and they said certain things, they had mystical intentions in why they were saying it and what they wanted to affect in the higher realms. It's a tremendous descent. Avo b'bchinas moichen de gadlus, when the Eibishter is a state of moichen de gadlus, hu l'mayla b'bchinas is galus ha'atzmos, li'yis moker v'shefa l'malchus ta'atzilus. He's beyond the level of being a source for energy for the world and therefore taking the world seriously. Now it is explained in the mashal before. We said in the mashal, in the analogy before, when the king is being mizgala in a state of katnos, umakar hashefa, which that becomes the source of shefa, shemizgala achakach bedibur emaisa. That later translates, what did we say before? The hashpah has to come from the melech to the queen. What's the queen? Malchus, the shechina, that is the power of speech. Ladin v'lishbait, and to execute judgment. Shekol masha yimtzo bedibur, whatever you're going to find in Malchus, which is speech, yimtzo belivavai tchila, first takes part in his heart. Now, just like we see when the king's revelation of his judgments and dinim. Yes, Hefresh, there is a difference between din kasha ledin mamutak, between very harsh judgments and sweetened judgments. Kain hayabul vavai tchila, so it was in his heart first. When the king desires the service of an eved, and he's good in the king's eyes. The king says this guy is a great servant, but he's not perfect enough. His avodah is not favored in the king's eyes. He's going to prescribe some kind of a punishment for him. Beshiflis, let's say he's going to humble him. He's going to embarrass him or do some other kind of humiliation to him. He's going to demote him. He had a very high position. The king demotes him to a much lower place. And what does that do? But it's a sweet judgment canal because it's intended for improvement. It's the same idea of it says Shamayim lo yizachu be'enav, that the heavens are not zachu in the Eibishter's eyes. Shuhu memidas gevura da'atzilus. This that the Eibishter doesn't, even Shamayim and all the creatures of heaven, whoever they are, they're all not finding favor in his eyes. Ve'im kol zeh haray Shamayim kayamim. Even though it says Shamayim lo yizachu be'enav, God doesn't destroy the heavens, is a siman that even when he chastises them or rebukes them, it's so that he still likes them and he wants them in his empire. He didn't pull out of them. He didn't fire them. He didn't give them the pink slip. These are the 72 gevurais mamutakas. But again, the difference between the 72 that we learned earlier and the 72 here is earlier we learned that the 72 are the 72 that are 72 edicts, the 72 as it's actually coming out in speech. Here we're talking on a deeper level, on an emotional level. How is the king feeling towards his servants? To those servants that the king feels that he likes them and wants them, but he's upset at them right now, and he wants improvement, and he's demanding, that's called the gevurais of Ze'er Anpin, but in the level of 72, which means they're full of chesed. The Einom, because we said before, Chesed is Gematria 72. The Einom didn't kasha. They're not harsh. Shenishpam begilui biyasoid Malchus Datzilus, which is given into the yasoid of Malchus Datzilus, which is where Malchus receives the ashpa from Ze'eran. Avala acher shenimshechu gevurais elu shalam mashpia bepchenas yasoid shebe Malchus. But when the mashpia is now giving it into Malchus, and into the receiving side of Malchus. The Yisod of Malchus is Malchus' ability to receive a hashpah. That's the Yisod. There's two Yisod. There's the Yisod of the Mashpia, there's the Yisod of the Makabel. The Yisod of the Mashpia is the ability for the Mashpia to extend themselves to the Makabel, to give a hashpah to the recipient. The Yisod of the Makabel is the ability of the Makabel to be able to receive from the Mashpia. So the Yisod of Malchus receives from the Yisod of the Ze'er Anpin. So when the hashpah goes into Malchus, and now there's an actualization of Malchus in speech and in action. Nasim kashim yoiser. They become harsher. And that's a general rule. Let's understand something. It says, here's a gevaldige inyan. It says there is gevurais on 3 levels. Gevura exists on 3 levels. There's gevurais in Malchus, there's gevurais in the Ze'er Anpin, and there's gevurais in Bina. 3 levels of gevura. Bina is called Shirish of the Gevurais, And it says like this, in the Gevuros of Bina are very sweet. They're the shirish of Gevura, but in essence it's still, because it's very expansive there. In the Zeranpin it's already harsher. But then when it goes down into Malchus, it can become Gevuros Kashes, much harder. And you see that there. When the king has a feeling of what? I like that guy. I really like him. He's doing good work, but he could do much better. And he suddenly gets like, you know what? We have to be. In that hergish, he feels a lot of love to him. That's what he wants to feel. But when he actually calls in his his manager, and he says, "See that servant over there? Put him in lock him up for 3 days in the room with the rats." Yeah, the room with the rats. By the way, we got rid of the rats. Tell you a nice Chassidic Maisa. 2 weeks ago, when you were all sitting over here and enjoying your break, I went into the room over there to get shalent. And I heard the Malachei Kabbalah, the destructive angels in the closet. Clearly heard them. We had rats here. So we called the pest control, Amaisa Geschäft. They put out traps, nothing. They kept on coming back, checking the traps, peanut butter, everything. That no one. He told me that mice are stupid and rats are very smart. Mice always get caught, but rats, they know how to grab the peanut butter and not get caught. In any case, they were there. And I didn't know what to do. And then he started putting these boxes. You see, they're still there. So last week, Thursday, I suddenly said, I called the guy and I said, hey, how did I forget? The famous Ropshetz Chassidic who gets rid of rats. There was a tzaddik in Hungary. People travel to his grave all the time. For some reason, he's a segula against rats. If you have rats in your house, literally, you put up his picture, I promise, the rats are gone. Either they're dead or they won't. So I posted his picture all over in that room and the other room. Yeah, you wondering? I put this picture of here and there, and I told my guy, Yona, I said, watch it. Finished. Caputo. So we check the I don't hear from them Shabbos, and we check the rat. We don't find them. We don't find them. So the last 2 days, it starts smelling a little bit over here. So we figured out that they died. They're dead. That's for sure. I didn't hear from them. Today the guy came and he emptied out a few of them. We found them. We discovered the dead rats. They're out. The tzaddik, he takes care of them. It's amazing. He literally, it's known. And when I had 2 guys came up here, Shabbos, and they saw the picture and they asked me, what's that? I told them, he says, oh yeah, he's a shliach in the Ukraine. So he says, we put up his picture, and then here's the picture, and we put a trap, and we came back the next day. The rat didn't even make it to the trap. He was dead on the floor 3 feet before the trap. Ropshetz Chassidic. He's known to be the Rebbe that kills the rats. So that's why I'm thinking of the rats. So if you put the guy in the hangar, you put him in the rat room. So when he executes, when he calls the judge in, when he calls his manager and he says, punish that guy, the manager, the guy in charge over there, he is not in tune with the king's kindness and feeling for the servant. He just hears a harsh judgment. So you realize it's much harsher in the command than it is where in the heart. And the heart is still the motivation for this punishment. There might be anger, there might be he's upset at his work, but there's also that he cares about him. But when it gets to the actual statement of it, it becomes harsher. And this guy might even throw him in. Think about it. The guy who's executing it, he might even punish him with more rage than the king intended, because he doesn't know what's happening in the king's heart. He just hears the words, and the words were, and the king said it very sternly, lock him up, or give him a fine, or fire him. Not fire him, because we're not talking about firing him. We're talking about where the king still wants him. So you see, that's what he's saying over here. The nasim kashim yoiser. Once it goes into malchus, it becomes harsher. Liyos dinu mishpat, it becomes a judgment. Shehu kamoy hatzivoy liyasroi. It's to tzivui, the commandment to rebuke him. Aval einam din kasha legamri. It's not totally harsh. Kigama ka atzma, because even when he hits him, mumutekes, it's sweetened bechesed nelam. There's a hidden chesed there, because ultimately he didn't fire him, he didn't kick him out. He wants him back. He's now punishing him. Like washing the child, where the child is screaming because you're scrubbing him clean, but he's really. These are Yisurim of love, that are drawn megvuris to Kedusha, from Gevuris of holiness. On those who Hashem loves. It actually says a pasuk. Whoever Hashem loves, He rebukes. And that's why it says by them, Ashrei HaGever, Asheti Yasrenuka. Fortunate is the person who is being misyaser. He's getting, God forbid, he's getting rebuked. He's getting suffering. Yisurim from Yudke. Pirish b'hagvurois dedechura. That the gevurois are coming from the gevurois of the male, of the masculine side of the Eibishter. Hu p'chines Yudke, which is Yudke. I don't know why Ka is considered gevurois of Ze'er Anpin. I don't know. Ki Yedua, he says it's Ki Yedua, but I don't know where. I don't remember a reference to that earlier in the Chassidus. Usually Ka is Chachmam Bina. Over here he's Chach. For some reason Ka is the gevura of the Ze'er Anpin. Okay. Misham Ikar Hashefa Shal Yisurim Elu. This is where the main chef of these Yisurim. V'shamem betachlis hamtaka the chesed amiti. Over there, the king really cares. He cares. He's he's executing punishment, but he really cares. It's real chesed. Elokach ashrei hagever. How fortunate is the person? V'day lamev. V'amnam, however, hear this. Min mem ches tzerufim detchura. From the last 48 tzerufim, not just of Malchus, but emanating from the Ze'er Anpin into Malchus. B'chinas din she'ena memutek. These are the judgments that are not memutek. Mehem sibas eshavos din kasha. From then comes the real harsh judgment. Mem ches tzerufim, the 48 tzerufim, the admas b'nei cham. Of admas b'nei cham. As we said before, the wreckage and the punishment that came to Mitzrayim, which is real punishment, it's not meant for a tikkun, it's meant for destruction. This is that, now he's explaining it not in the edict, in the punishment, but in the feelings of the king. It's when the king had enough of someone. He's really upset about him and wants him out. When the king wants to distance the servant in truth, he doesn't want his service at all. And he's very, very, very ma'usa. He's very disgusted by it. Until he says, Arois, out. I'm getting very excited because I'm doing things in the Olam Esalayanim now. I'm making sure that Pelosi is not going to be in power next week. Out, Arois, 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 Arois. So that's where I'm learning the Maimer, by the way. I have there's a Kavanas over here. Zois ubchenes gevuras kashas. These are the harsh gevuras kanal. Kishem is galim b'dibur and ma'isa. When they're revealed in dibur and ma'isa, hem koshem yoiser, they become very harsh. Achanasa hadin mamish still becomes the real judgment. Kemoy ken al derech mashal. Kishem malchus da atzilus. When malchus of atzilus mekabel shefa gevuras kashas. So this is that he wants the servant out, and when a malchus receives it, ozai hu inyan atola zehama shal nachash. This is the idea that the snake put something impure where into Malchus. It says the snake had relations with Chava. Chava is the Shechina. This hashpa of the memches tzerufim, cham hashpa from that's called already a bite, the snake bite. And here's the pasuk. Here's a gewaldige pasuk. In Mishlei there are the best psukim. There's a pasuk in Mishlei. It says like this: that there are certain people, certain entities, that they don't leave any footsteps after they don't leave a trace. And it says 4 entities don't leave a trace. Who doesn't leave a trace? When an eagle soars through the sky, you don't know the path the eagle took because there's no trace of where the eagle went because the air doesn't show a trace of where. Derech Nesher Ale Shamayim, that's the first one. derech nachash al tzur, the way of a snake on a rock, because its snake slithers. He's not like another animal. Another animal, when it goes somewhere, it leaves footprints. But the snake slithers, especially when it's on a rock. When it's in the sand, you can see the shape. But if it's on a rock, there's no shape at all. The next one, derech sfina al ayam, when a ship crosses the sea. So for a second, the waters have a thing, but a second later, the waters go back, as if the sea, as if the boat never passed. And the last one, derech gever ale alma, which means that when a person has relations with a woman, but she's not a when she was a virgin, so his sin that he did, there's evidence. Why is there evidence? Because she was a virgin till now, and now she's not. But if she's already a non-virgin, so he and her can get away because there's no trace of what? Of the sin. That's what Shlomo HaMelech says. There's certain elements that are not traceable. That's the simple meaning. But here, the deep meaning, the godly, Shlomo HaMelech is not just speaking on these realms, much deeper. The Alter Rebbe is going to talk about two parts of the pasuk. Derech gever ale alma is referring to a man with a woman who's been alma. That's the Shechina Malchus. Derech gever is the hashpah from Yisoid al alma to Malchus, but that is gevurais. That's the first 72 gevurais that he gives her. That's called derech gever ale alma. That's healthy gevurais. But derech nachash ale tzur, when Malchus, which is called tzur, when Malchus is receiving from the nachash, then Malchus is called tzur, extreme punishments. And where do you see that? That tzur is when Malchus is being very, very harsh. It says in Hazinu, what does it say in Hazinu? Hatzur tamim pa'alai. By the way, this teaches us an amazing thing. It's not like when this is injected into Malchus chas v'shalom, Malchus acts in a reckless manner and punishes unjustly. You can't say that chas v'shalom. That would take on, oh my, Malchus received this snake stuff, and it just polluted chas v'shalom the shchem. Then there's things that happen in the world that are just totally insane, and things that, no, it means that there is heart, everything is just, but it's a little too extreme. And that's why we're saying that even on the level of hatzur, tamim pa'alai, is never that you can say that someone chas v'shalom didn't get what they deserved. There's always a justice, a justified. But still, we don't want Malchus being in such an exact state. And when is that? When Malchus is receiving from the most extreme, from the nachash element of Yesod. Derech nachash ale tzur, derech gever ba'alma. Ki tzur hu Malchus kishemakabeles gevuros hashefa. When she, Kamosha Kasav, like it says, hatzur tamim pa'olam. Ukishemakabeles gevuros memutakois. And when she receives sweetened judgments, Ozai derech gever ba'alma. Then it's called derech gever, the gevura. Gever means gevura. Yesoid is giving his gevura into Malchus. Aval inyan shefa gevuris kashois nikra nachosh alei tzur. That's called the nachash, the snake on the rock. Now, what is the nachash shaychus to Yesoid? So he says, ki milui acharayim the shem shakai. So I told you this earlier. The shem shakai is what? The name of Hashem that's associated with Yesod. That's the name of Yesod, the Shakai. It's interesting. In Malchus, it's called Sadeh. Shin, Dalet, Hay. Sadeh, a field. With a hay. Hay is Malchus. When the man is being mashpia into Sadeh, it's Sadai, Shakai. Shin, Dalet, Yud. Difference of Yud and Hay, by the way. Because man is Ish is Ish is Eish Yud, and woman is Eish Hey. See? Eish Hey, Eish Yud. Shem Shakai, who Oisi is up. So the Miloi of the Acharayim of Shem Shakai, who Oisi is Nachash. And I told you earlier, I drove myself crazy. I sat down, I started making the Miloi of the Acharayim and tried to figure it out, and I couldn't. And I texted Rabbi Dubov, who's the expert in this Indian, and he actually told me, send me a picture of the Maayon. I sent him a picture of the Maayon, and I don't hear back from him. He didn't answer me. Maybe he did answer by now. Let's take a look if he gave me a hesber on how this works. No, he didn't answer. Maybe tomorrow he'll answer me. And he asked me for a picture. I sent him a picture of this. How it comes out that the Acharayim, because the way Acharayim works, for those who want to know, is Acharayim works like this. You take, for example, if you have a word, which is, they give me the name Shakai. So you take Shakai, and Acharayim means you do Shin Dalid, and then Shin Dalid Yud. By tripling, by making the letters like first one letter and then twice, you're reducing the power of the word. That's the way it works, for whatever reason. And that's why you're getting to the back of that sphere, meaning it's chitzonius, not to its panemius. Of every level, when you reduce it by putting the first letter and then putting that letter again and the next letter, and then so the Acharayim of Elokim will be first Aleph, then Aleph Lamed, then Aleph Lamed Hey. Oh, but he's saying the Acharayim, the Miloi of the Acharayim of Shakai. So if you're doing the Miloi of the Acharayim, Miloi is what's Miloi? Miloi are the hidden letters that are, the Shin. So for instance, Shin is Shin Yud Nun. So what I did was I put Shin, and I did Yud Nun, so that's 60. Then I did Shin Dalet, so you have 60, again the Miloi. And Dalet, the problem is Dalet is already tough Lamed. Dalet is Daled Lamed, Dalis. The way you spell it, Dalet is really Delis. So it's Daled Lamed tough. You're already 430. And plus 60 is 490. You're already more than Nachash. Nachash is 358. So I can't figure out what he means that the Acharayim of Shakai, the Miloi of the Acharayim, is Oisias Nachash. So, V'hu b'chenas moichen dekatnos, and that's moichen dekatnos. The source of snake is moichen. By the way, we're going to see soon. This week, anybody that's paying attention to the news, you'll see that there's two types of Jews on the internet. Religious Jews. I'm talking about observant Jews. There are those who have moichen dekatnos, very, very peanut brains. And as a result of that, whenever they're talking about the tragedy and the massacre that happened last week Shabbos, they're saying it's a conservative shul, it was a bris of a gay couple, and therefore it was and therefore and whatever happened. That's called moichen dekatnos. That's when you're trying to play God, but you're not playing a big God, you're playing a very, very narrow-minded God. And then you have those that are saying a Jew is a Jew, and it's not your business to tell anybody who sinned and who's deserving and so on and so forth. That's all of a moichen dekatnos. It's more of a far more expansive idea. And to say what happened, we don't understand. But chas v'sholem and adarabah, for us, our Indian is to feel tremendous pain and because we're really one people, and we shouldn't make these. Doesn't mean that I approve of the lifestyle, or it doesn't mean I approve of the shul, or so on and so forth. But I approve of a Jew. And these Yidden are innocent Yidden who went there because they... So you see, and we'll see that the snake, this is the snake. This whole attitude is a very snake attitude. It's very katnostic. It's very exact. It exists. How does it exist by Yidden? It's because it exists even in Elokus. In Elokus there's also a snake. But you realize when people act that way, they're ma'orer the level of snake. And we don't want the level of snake. Because the level of snake creates horrible dinim in Malchus, and then the Eibishter acts in a very exact way. Everything is dependent on us. We create. So when we're acting like a snake, but when we're more expansive and we're more tolerant and appreciate a little bit broader things, we don't cause such tzimtzumim. Chas v'shalom. But in any case, now, at the time when the Yidden were being bitten by the Nachash that was really, really, really cruel down here, Moshe needed to reveal the Shoresh, because we said earlier, in the Shoresh, even the Nachash, even the king, when he's upset, in the king's heart, over there, it's not as harsh as it is in the execution stage. So when you're being Ma'orah, there it's still life. Shakal al-re'eyu chai, you saw, because it's still Elokus. So you saw the snake, they lived. It's still a chelik of Yisoid. It's still a life of Olamais. It's only that it injects it in Malchus, and once it goes into Malchus, it starts becoming poison as it goes down. Achu bebchinas katnos liyis medakte kolkach, to be such medakte. Ache yufsek hadin bilavav, until he becomes very strict. Kamashakasav yisatzev eliboy, God becomes very ba'atzvus, very sad. Ubemalchus ta'atzilus, and when it goes into malchus, nesavim is a oilam hanafradim. It creates very separate worlds. V'hem yisurim she'enam shel ava, and it becomes yisurim that are not out of love. So we're going to take a little break and have some cholent, very important, to help create the moichem the gadlus. And then we're going to come back and finish this up. Which video? No, Yossi Jacobson also answered someone. I don't know who, but you're seeing people that make comments as stupid comments. Yeah. I know it, yeah. Doctor? You're holding out, Daniel? Okay. Let's try a little further. Let's see how we do. Paragimel. Let's see, what did Daron tell me? Because I asked Daron to come. Okay. Now here's this beautiful idea. All of our avoid and our mitzvahs that we do, when we do mitzvahs, what do we affect? We cause to skip this whole level. Remember, so we're learning in judgment itself, there's two levels. One is very harsh, and one is kind judgment, but still judgment. And then there's a state where Hashem is so exalted it's too unimportant that he should be so meticulous, and then he's giving because he's giving. And then there's there's much more bracha and lack of K'moy bePesach, like on Pesach. In the miracles that Moshe Rabbeinu did. Now, before Moshe Rabbeinu came, where were we living? In the land of Cham, under the snake. And that's why when Moshe started doing miracles and opening things up and changing everything around, what was the first miracle he did? He took the snake and turned it to his staff. The staff into the snake and snake into the staff. He took the snake and turned it into a snake. It wasn't just that little trick down here. He was elevating the entire, that's what the tzaddik does. The tzaddik lifts up the entire hanhaga, the whole conduct of God above to higher places. So, Shehu Mata Moshe, that's the staff of Moshe, which is Yesod Abba. We said before that there's the element of Yesod, but there's the Yesod of the Ze'er Anpin, which the Yesod of the Ze'er Anpin is built on a lot of Gevura. But then there is the Yesod from Chachma, which is Kulei Chesed. And that's the Mata of Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu is related to Chachma. That's why he teaches us the Torah, which the Torah comes from Chachma. Mata Moshe, the staff of Moshe, which through a staff you extend yourself farther than you are, is the idea of Yesod. So Mata Moshe is the Yesod of Chachma. And what we're drawing is that he wanted the Hanhaga. He was drawing down the conduct of God to come from Yesod of Chachma into Malchus. Shebetoichza, Ekamoishia la'asad lavai. When the Geula is going to come, when Mashiach will come, what does it say over there? Im yiga'alcha toiv yigal. Where is this a pasuk? When Rus was talking to Boaz, and Boaz was arranging with her to marry her, okay? Boaz said, listen, I'd love to marry you, but there's one closer relative. His name is Tov. If Tov is going to redeem you, it was good. If not, I will redeem. I will marry you. So obviously this. Rus is Malchus again. She's the mother of Mashiach. Okay. And Rus is in exile. Im Yiga'olcha, if the redemption to Malchus, to the Shechina, to the Jewish people, to the Toiv, who's Toiv? Moshe Rabbeinu was called Tov. When he was born, it says, Vayaro Soki Tov, he's good. So you see that Geula comes from the Hizgalos of Toiv. Im Yiga'olcha Toiv Yigal Shuhu Mata Moshe. That's the staff of Moshe. The first Geula, what happened is like this. The first Geula came through what? The first redemption came through Moshe's staff, the Yesod of the Yesod of Chachma. That's mislabishing Yesod of Ze'er Anpin, which goes into Malchus, and that's the total opposite of the snake. The snake is the back of Yesod when Yesod is in the most constricted level. The Yesod of Ze'er Anpin regularly has what? We said before, the name Shakai, has judgments, but they're more lenient judgments. The Yesod of Chachma, there's no judgments there at all. So that's what she says. In Yigol Chatoiv, if the future redemption is going to be similar to the Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is going to be through the Hizgalus of Yesod Abba that takes the snake and replaces it to Moshe Rabbeinu's staff, then what? Yigal, you're going to be redeemed. And if not, the redemption is going to come from even a higher place. Even higher than Moshe Rabbeinu's staff. The imlav ugal tucha, what does he say? What does Baya say? The imlav, and if not, ugal ticha anoichi. I will redeem you. What's the deeper meaning? Toiv is a certain level, Yisoid of Chachma. Anoichi is God's very essence of essence. I as I truly am. So here's what's going on. Boaz is talking, and Boaz is saying, Imgal tucha toiv. If toiv will redeem, in other words, we'll see soon it means, if the Jewish people have Torah and mitzvahs, which as a result of that, they're drawing the energy down from Chachma, then they can be redeemed by merit. But if they don't even have that merit, then God says, my very essence is going to come to redeem them. Onoichi. I. It's a higher level. We go back to the girl that was raped, that we say earlier, that she cries out, and it says, Ve'ein Mashiach, no one helps her. But the deeper meaning in Chassidus is, Ve'ein Mashiach. And the level called Ayin, which is Anoichi, that can't be described with anything, Mashiach comes to her assistance. And that's the ultimate of assistance of the Shechina in Golos and so. Moshe is Baal Kaman, like will be explained soon. This idea, so that's what we do, that what? That Geula and our avoid of Torah and mitzvahs is all to bring Moichen the Gadlus. And Moichen the Gadlus means that there isn't these constrictions, and Hashem is not being so judgmental, and everything is in an expansive state. Like it says, this idea that during the time of Golus, we're Chas v'Shalom influenced by snake hashpa into Malchus. We see it from somewhere else. It says that Hashem says in Golus Mitzrayim, I've crossed over you. It's a pasuk in Yecheskel. Ve'erech mispaiseses b'deimayach. I saw you wallowing in your blood. Pirish, and what does that mean? Malchus, the Shechina, is feminine, a woman, and a woman has the period. She has a period, which is her menstruation. The period that a woman has, dam nida, is associated with these harsh judgments. Kamoi, as it applies to the Shechina. Ki kamoi dam nida, just like the blood of nida. Umashal psolas hashefa. The menstruation is the blood, but usually blood that's not menstruation. The woman's blood, she creates a child from it. That's the pneumius of the blood. She can create a child. She can ovulate and have a child. If the ovulation failed and it didn't produce pneumius, a child, then the psoles goes out, the non-good blood, so to speak, the toxic blood, it's the waste. So that's psoles hashefa begvures the malchus, and that refers to when malchus has extra gvures, extra dam, not good gvures, benevroim. And here's the thing: it says that malchus, from her blood, from her menstruation blood, the klipa of the... See, before we spoke about in Atzilus, that's higher than a Malchus, being mashpia in a Malchus, the snake. But here's another inyan. Malchus's blood flows out from this gevuris that it receives from the snake, which later translates as her blood, which are these intense gevuris. When it goes out, what did we say before? It supports admas b'nei cham. So what happens is, he says, ze'er anpin de klipa de bria. The lower level of klipa, of the world of bria, it's already a creation. The ze'er ampin, the masculine klipa of bria, yoinik mehem, derives his energy from the menstruating blood. Why is a woman in a state of tumah? Why is a woman in a state of impurity during her time of her menstruation? Because every woman is a reflection of the Shekhinah. And during the time when the Shekhinah is, so to speak, a nida, which is the time of Galus, it means that the Shekhinah is being hacked. We spoke about this a lot of times. That the unholy forces are deriving energy from the Shekhinah. Spiritually, as that applies, and that to a woman, it's the same thing. She at that time, there is a certain access to forces that, for all practical purposes, it doesn't make a difference in your life, but It's spiritually, it's that way, that a woman's soul has a certain connection to forces of unholiness that are deriving energy. It's not her fault, because it's part of this creation, but she can't have a relationship with her husband, because if she does, then that powerful energy that he's giving her into her neshama, the klippas will be, it's like I've discussed many times, it's like when you find out that your bank account was hacked, you're not going to go make a deposit that day of $100,000. Why? Because it would be utterly ridiculous, because first you fix the hack. That's the reason why there can't be relationship during the time of nida, when a woman is impure, because that during that time, if the husband the husband represents masculine energy, so he's bringing down extra energy into her soul, because the physical relationship parallels the spiritual intimacy. So he's bringing life into her soul, and being that at this point she's being hacked by the unholy, so all that energy is now going into the klipa and making klipa very strong. That's why it's so important to keep the laws of family purity. Ukemoikein, so does it spiritually, it's the idea. Shefa psoilis hagavur is the za. The shefa, the psoilis of the gavuris of the ze'er rampin anikra nachash. Misham achizas klippas hazahama shal oisei nachash. So what he's basically saying is that there's two nachashes. There is the nachash, which is the achorayim, which is the backside of the name Shakai. That nachash is not klipa chas v'shal. It's still a level of the divine. It's not klipa. Moshe Rabbeinu illustrated that by making a nachash, and by looking at nachash, people were healed. It's elokus, it's godly. But it's still a very, very constricted. It's like, what's my answer to the people that are screaming, I told you earlier, oh, it's tummy, you're right. It's not that they're not saying something that's not true. Yes, there is, they're not saying, meaning, there is a certain truth and validity to the idea that what I don't even want to say it, because I don't want to be that kind of din. But their arguments are judgmental as they're saying truth, but it's very moichin dekatnos thing. Look a little bigger. See the bigger picture. See the what the intentions of these simple Jews are. They're going to shul on Shabbos. They don't know, and they're not. They haven't been known better. And it's coming from a good place. It's called Moichin de Gadol, seeing something. It's not that it's not true. Nachash de Kedusha is also it's holy. It's Nachash de Kedusha. But later, when this Nachash de Kedusha gives life into Malchus, it will cause menstruation in her, which is the blood, which later is going to become the source of nourishment to the Nachash of the Klipa, the real Nachash of Olam Abriya. That's already a real Klipa. That's already a force that's dark and a destructive force, and he's becoming empowered. From there is the chiba klipas hazehama, the klipa of the filth, shall oisei nachash, of that nachash. Wow. There is a satan, there is a satanic force, even in the world of Atzilus, that's purely godly, because there is some ready shoresh of klipa there, which is the klipa of this level of nachash, shehu zad the klipa d'Atzilus, which is the ze'er rampin of klipa. So in Atzilus itself, there is two nachash. There is the nachash, which is still nachash, the limited, constricted gvurais of Yesod, but then there is a peel to that, and the peel and the shell to that is already the samach mem of Atzilus. V'zeh sheba nachash al Chava, and that's the meaning that the snake had relations with Chava. The hitl by Zahama, and he put filth into her. And we know, and this is perfect, Begashmias too. Where did menstruation come from? Where did the whole nida? From Eve, from her sin. From after she encountered the snake. So you see, it's because the snake had relations with her. That's what we're learning now. The snake, when these gevuras, when these very judgmental elements of the divine flow into the Shekhinah, that later creates that in her it becomes very intense, and it becomes these psolastic judgments, and this feeds the real klippas. Shehu b'chenasam, that's the samamaves chas v'shalom. It's the poison v'day lamev. Ukeniske b'zoyar, it says in the Zoyar, Amalei Hakadosh Baruch Hu l'samach mem, k'mo shekazam makamacha v'day lamev. V'yedua, it is known, shechava hi oisa ein kol chai. Chava, physically, she's the mother of all living beings, so she represents the Shechina. Vehu Malchus Ta'atzilus, she is the level of Malchus of the world of Atzilus. Kishemistateres, when she lowers herself down to become the life force, beyond the three lower worlds, Bri, Yatzir, and Asiya. So when she starts sustaining the three lower worlds, however, through positive mitzvahs, when we do mitzvahs, we draw down the moichen de gadlus, the broad moichen, we change the snake energy, and we cause tremendous flow of great godly light. This is the essence of the Eibishter's greatness, where he's beyond measuring himself to the world and therefore being impacted by our deeds. On that level, kulam zakim be'enov. On that level, everybody is deserving, because he's infinite, ain't sof, he doesn't care. He's above beyond it all. Ki kalam mamish chashiva, because everything is nothing. Everything is meaningless. V'hu kamay hazvuv. And he gives an example. Like shahoylech b'ktzei abayis, it's like a little, like we spoke last week about the spider in the palace of the kings. It's like a little fly that's going in the corner of the house. Sheina taf is makan klal. No one notices the little fly over there. V'gam kiyamay dasvuv biyadai. And even if the fly lands on his hand, v'yinashchenu, and even if it bites him, ein zeheda l'chvoy de klal. They're saying like this: a person gets a mosquito bite, you get upset because it itches. But you don't get upset. How dare you were disrespectful to me, honey? You know who I am? How dare you bite me? Why? Because the mosquito is not someone that's worthy, that will provoke your... so that's the Indian. When the Eibishter is in a true state of godless, then it's all a little fly. V'dailamir. Ki ha-mitzvahs, because the mitzvahs have the machevarim the malkam, a pnimius ha-midas. The mitzvahs draw the 248 limbs of the king, the innermost of the midas. Ki do it as known. L'kach yesh b'choyles asiyasam. That's why it is the capabilities of doing them. Lahamshecha atzmus b'chinas giloy, to reveal the very essence of the Eibishter in a state of real. B'zeh ha'olam, in this world. Sheyeh midah zu shel chesed elyon da'atzilos. That this midah of the supernal chesed of Atzilus, mizgala al yedei ha-mitzvahs, should reveal itself through mitzvahs. Actually, titfis makim klal, till it shouldn't occupy any space. Masha oimrim amalachim kadosh. The fact that the Eibishter even ignores the angels that are saying kadosh, 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 and these are like, wow, you should be impressed. When God is so beyond, the angels are also meaningless to him. And where does God go? Wherever he wants. And what does he choose? To play with us down here. So God skips over all the avoid of all the higher worlds and comes to play with us. Because he's so high and it's all meaning. If he's taka impacted, then the music created by the perfect harmonies of the higher angel, they're far more sophisticated and far more deserving than our davening down here. What are we davening already? We're total lousy daveners, the way we daven compared to the malachim. But when the Eibishter is beyond it all, he doesn't care. So he actually is excited about the miniature little ones, because that's interests him more. Because it says klal masha oimrim hamalachim kadosh v'doilig dilugim, and Hashem skips over everybody. We turn over the page. Ayin v'shoichein b'toich klalos nishmas Yisroel, and the Eibishter dwells in the Jewish people. Dafka kamashakasa medalig alaharim by Yitzias Mitzrayim. Hashem skips over the mountains because he's coming from so high. The Dailamev. These gewaltige mochen, which is the godless amidos, that's not the name of Elokim, that's the name of Havaya, the tetragrammaton, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Whenever you see Havaya, it's Rachamim, it's compassion. And mitzvahs are called the channels of Havaya. So when you do mitzvahs in the world, you draw down expansive moichin. But it doesn't mean that we can remove completely all Elokim and only function on Havaya. Because this place can also be dangerous. Why can it be dangerous? Because if God is in such an expansive state, and he doesn't discriminate, and everything is meaningless, then who knows if he might favor who? Even the real bad guys. That's the danger. when he's so generous, there could be that's why the mochen have a krumos. What's a krum? A krum, that's on the moyach. A person has a brain, and on the moch there's a krum. I think a krum is like a membrane. And what do? They're from the name of Elokim. These membranes on the mochen. Shudinim v'tzimtzumim. They are certain dinim and there are certain contractions. V'inyan, and what's the idea? Through the unbelievable chesed that comes when the Eibishter is in a state of archavas hadas. When the whole world is meaningless, there can be such an increase of kindness, more than enough, until the Eibishter can chas v'shalom have mercy on even those who hate him. An example to that was Avram was so kind that he was able to have Yishmael come from him. And if so, there could be an achiza, there could be a giving room for the chitzonim, for the extraneous forces. Through these great moichen de gadlus, just like the chitzonim take from the very, very bottom, when it's coming from the snake, they can take. Because it's so constricted, and then God supports the bad guys because the bad guys do the dirty work. So he gives it to them. That's the negative. That's when they receive from the very bottom, from the most constricted. It's like the king who's like very judgmental. So he goes and he calls up the mafioso boss and he gives them money to kind of, even though they're criminals, he still supports them because he wants their work. He wants them because he's in a really bad mood, and he's therefore even going to use the mob to take care of the guy in Saudi Arabia, who did himself in by knocking off the prince there. They're knocking off the journalist, So we all know where it came from. It came from the prince, but he called in the henchmen to do it. So that's because of what? That's when they're receiving from the very bottom, when he's in a very, very, very constricted. But just like they can see from the very bottom, they can also receive from him when he's completely above the whole system. And he's infinite. The bad guys can also creep up to that place when the king is in such a good mood and he gives to everybody, indiscriminately. So that's also dangerous. When the king is in such a high state, when he's not being judgmental at all in his servants, even a very, very, very bad or what you call it, a very weak or very deficient servant, Yekabel Chayos, can also receive energy v'yanika. Kamoya Choshev, equally to someone who's doing a wonderful job. The best of his servants. Why? Kishneim Shavim b'bitulan, because both are equal. Legabaya atzmos, in front of the essence of God, they're both equal, because they're both nothing. That's why these mochen of Havaya, even though they're so high, there needs to be some element of Elokim to give some kind of a filter and a screen to these energies. It can't be open to everybody. Hamoichen al yoinim, pirish tzimtzum vehester, some kind of a contraction. Lamshachas hamoichen, to these moichen, bal yumshuchu yoiser midai, they shouldn't flow too much. Kemashal hakrum, just like the membrane hachoifa al hamoyach that surrounds the brain umagbiloi and limits it mikol tzad from all sides. Shaloyam gala hamoach, that the brain should not. If we wouldn't have these membranes on the brain would be too intensely bombarding us with intellect, with ideas, and we would just too much for us. So that's why there was the membrane on the brain that keeps it a little bit restrained. And he gives example that's so hard for us to relate to. He says, when people have a difficulty to understand some new idea, it's because of the membrane. That's covering the brain. In other words, the brain is not so accessible to us. If we wouldn't have that membrane, I would not be able to live. Well, exactly how this translates into medical science, I don't know. But if we're not for this, whatever, which through the membrane which means through this filter, the shefa of the seichel goes out, min hamoyach, from the brain, v'ubalidei tzimtzum, and it goes through a contraction, bahakrum, in this membrane. Lekach, therefore, k'shaloim et seichel hakasa b'sefer. When you're learning a book, let's say, you open up this book, and many times when I did it the first two or three times today, I couldn't figure out heads and tails what he's talking about. Even though now when I'm teaching it, it's like, wow, every line is so rich and so like, wow. But when I read it the first 2 times today, I was like, I said, how in the world are we ever going to, this doesn't make any sense. I couldn't put together two lines. So he says, when you read a seichel that's written as a mesiba sakrum, so he blames it on my membrane. The membrane that's there, lo yikanas seichel, it doesn't allow the seichel to enter the mocho in your brain because there's a blockage. V'chein kishamaskel b'sichle, 2 ways. He's saying the membrane acts as a filter in both ways. When you want to take information in from a book into your mind, the membrane slows it down. And the opposite, when you want to innovate ideas, create ideas from your mind outward, the membrane also slows it down. Sometimes you don't have the ability to really explain it. Because of this membrane, that limits the mind, so that the seichel, the idea, remains hovering over the brain and doesn't enter b'pnimius. It's like a vessel, like a cup that limits the water. The water on its own would splash everywhere, but the cup or the bottle is holding it. Now that's very important. That's why we say magain. Now who's this energy of infinite goodness? Who's this energy? Avram Avinu represents God's infinite kindness, that he's above it all and therefore can be kind to everybody. That's why Avram Avinu, we say particularly when we pray every day, Magain Avraham. What's Magain Avraham? Magain means a shield. Avram needs to be shielded. Sheyesh b'chinas Magain u'master b'Avram. There is a Magain, there is a shield on Avram, Ha'elyon, the supernal Avram. Shu moichen de chesed atzilus, which are the mochen of chesed of atzilus, bal yetzem yemenu Yishmael. That Yishmael should not come from him. As a result, Yishmael, right? Avram prayed for Yishmael that he should die l'meiv. V'zeu ikra machaven b'mitzvot. Now, we said before that the positive commandments bring down this lofty level of godly infinite kindness. Orchois Havaya, the channels of Havaya. Not Elokim. God is not functioning from a judgmental place, but he's in a far more expansive, more in touch with his deeper self. Ein Sof, Chesed, fine. But we said before, it could be dangerous, so we need to have protection. How do we create that Magain Avraham? That's the prohibitive commandments. That's why the Torah, at the same time that the Torah is giving us such beautiful commandments, like light the menorah, and light your Shabbos candles, and then share the shofar, and eat the matzah, like these are all such beautiful, positive, great things, love your fellow. The Torah is also giving us a lot of restrictions. The restrictions are because, as Jews, we're so powerful, and we draw down through mitzvahs, through the positive command, we draw down such infinite light. If we leave it open-ended, everybody can take. The prohibitive mitzvahs are the membranes for each of these to keep the light protected in a bottle, in a cup, in some keli, in a vessel, and not allow it to water just to like float everywhere. The Torah says, do not eat certain fat of the animal. Why? What these prohibitions do is they keep the flow that we've activated to be contained, and to hold them in these membranes, the Elokim, of the name of Elokim, that surround, they're the Magain for the name of Havaya. Like it says in the Pasuk, Ki Shemesh u'Magain Havaya Elokim. That Elokim acts as a Magain, a shield for Havaya. Al Yadesha Maneya Melasos. So just like and Hashem follows us. When we reject, because what happens? When you have a chas v'shalom, when a person has a sin in front of him, it means that there's a certain klipa that wants to get your attention. There's a certain dark energy that wants to get your attention. And it's asking for your attention. When a person gives it attention, means you're supporting it, you're acknowledging, you're giving it energy. But when you say no, You push the thought away, or the idea, or the action away, even though you would like to, even though it's tickling you, it's exciting you, but you're pushing it away. You're saying no, shutting yourself down. So just like down here, you're not giving it attention. You're not giving it life. It causes up there that the root of this klipa is not receiving, gets rejected. It too is giving an application. The klippas are constantly giving in applications for a grant, right? And they want to go to the place where, and the fact that their applications are being rejected and they're not being given this is as a result of us down here rejecting continuously that which God told us in our miniature world to reject. And we shouldn't give extra energy to the chitzayim b'chelev, by eating the fat that we're not allowed, which is not kosher, the dam, or the blood, not salting chicken or meat properly, so you're eating the blood, and that it's all giving life. And that's why we sometimes say that the prohibitive commandments are even greater than the positive commandments. Al mitzvah say on the positive. The mitzvah say cause the energy to flow, canal. And so to speak, put God in a very, or open us up to a level where Hashem is very expansive and happy and non-judgmental and so on and so forth. But then it's flowing in a certain direction. What does the Losa say do? Alosa say ma'akif, holds back the krumin, abchinas krumim, they're not allowing the mitzvah to further flow. Harei nisher b'bchinas makif alamoch. It's keeping the energy on a level of makif. Kanal b'mashal v'areim gavoya ma'moichem atzmai. So when the energy is in a makif state, they're higher than the mochin because they're still sitting above the mochin. The dailam even. Okay. V'zau pidish magein Avraham. That's the idea of the shield of Avram. Okay, so now we're left with one last thing. We're left with now understanding who Chava is, and what the idea of Chava is, and why she is the one that the snake attacks. So Chava, we said, is the Shechina. So we're going to see that Chava exists on two stages. Initially, when Hashem created Adam and Chava were one. And when Adam and Chava were one being, the snake would have never dreamt of starting up with them. He couldn't start up with her because she was one with him. She gains access, she becomes vulnerable to attack after the surgery, and Chava becomes an entity on her own. Then she's in a condition that she can be raped by the snake, as we're going to see. And then through the snake, she can even impact him. And all this darkness can come. So he's going to explain the idea of Chava existing on two levels. The idea of Chava. Now, by the way, Chava is the same word as Chivya, which means snake. So she's vulnerable to the snake in that sense. But what is Chava? So the Arizal says an interesting thing. The Arizal says Chava, the numeric value of the name Chava is 19. Ches, Vav, Hey. Ches and Vav, 8 and 6 is how much? 14. And Hey and 5, 14 and 5 is 19. So Chav is 19. Watch an amazing thing. Adam is Gematria 45. Aleph, Dalet, Mem, 45. When you take, now what else is 45? Yud Kei Vav Kei is 45. When you fill Yud, when Yud is filled, Yud Vav Dalet, so Yud Vav Dalet, Yud is Yud Vav Dalet, so it's 20. Yud is 10, and Vav and Dalet together are another 10. Hey, we're going to fill the Hey with an Aleph. Hey and Aleph, Hey Aleph is 6. Vav is 13. Vav Aleph Vav. Vav is 6. Aleph Vav is 13. And then the Hey is again 6. So 6 and 6 are 12. Plus 13 is 25. Wait, 12 plus 13 is how much? 12 plus 13 is, 25. Plus, no, I made a mistake. No, it is good. Plus another, what did I give you? Hey and hey is 12. Plus 20, plus 20. 25 plus 20, it's 45. So Yud Kei Vav Kei equals 45 with the whole thing. Now what I want you to do is, let's take the first letters away, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, and leave only the inside letters. We're taking away the outside letters and we're leaving only the inside letters. So it's very simple. Take 45 minus 26. The outside letters are gematria 26. Everybody knows tetragrammaton is 26. So 45 minus 26. Come on, everybody's so tired you can't do math anymore. 45 minus 26. 19. So what's Chava? Chava is the inside letters hidden in Adam. Adam is 45. So the hidden letters that are not pronounced, the outer letters are the pronounced letters, the Yud, Vav, Hey, Vav. But the hidden letters that are inside it, that are not pronounced, the Miloi, that we call the Miloi of Havaya, of Yud Kei Vav Kei, when it's 45, is Chava. That's why, so that materialized in what? In Chava, initially, she was inside Adam. She was one with him. Because Chava is part of Adam, which is 45. Then Hashem separated it. And Adam Havaya is 26, and Chava is 19. The Shekhinah is 19, and Adam, who's Adam really? Adam is the HaKadosh Baruch, who's the Erampi. So now they separate. So he says like this: as long as Chava is still part of Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, she's still in that higher state. So Havaya is higher than the world, we say. Havaya is beyond time and space, Ein Sof, above. There is no contractions there. No one can. It's like when the king is not at all in a state of, if a prosecutor comes to the king when the king is in that state of complete, he's not interested. When the king is in a state of demanding, when he's in a state of Elokim, and what, and the prosecutor comes, what, then the king can evoke, snitch, get the king angry here and there. When the king is exalted, that's why when Chava is part of Adam, she's not vulnerable to the snake. When does she become vulnerable to the snake? When she becomes severed and becomes separate from him. What that means is, let me put it this way, how does that translate? The Yud Kei Vav Kei goddess, how does Hashem run the world? Hashem runs the world from the Shekhinah, not from the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Because from the Malchus, that's where he operates. That's the operations rule. But there's two levels of Shekhinah. When Shekhinah is still absorbed in Havaya, then Shekhinah itself is still is so high. The Shekhinah could have created worlds that way. But then the worlds on that level are very godly worlds. They're very, very in tune with the Ein Sof. But the Eibishter doesn't want such worlds. He wants worlds that are more separated. So what does he do to Chava? He separates the energy of the inside of the Yud Kei Vav Kei to be in a more pronounced state, out. And therefore the creations are more pronounced. But that puts the Shekhinah in a danger zone. Because she's creating what kind of creations? She's creating creations that have what? Ego, self-awareness. And now they can rebel against God. And they can even drag Chava into the darkness. And that's the idea of the snake impacting Chava. So let's read it inside. Chava is the miloi of the name of Ma. Miloi means the hidden letters of the name of God of Memhe. Sheba Adam Elyon, that is in the supernal man. What is it known in Yanam. So first he's going to explain what does it mean miloi. Miloi, he says, the letters that are the miloi are like a ray of the word. It's not the word itself. It's like a weaker part of the word because it's only the miloi. which it's the, and when do you use Miloy? You use Miloy only when you want to, if I'm writing something, Yud Kei Vav Kei, you don't see the hidden letters, it's not there. In essence, it's not there. But if I want to say it, Yud Kei Vav Kei, when I'm saying it in speech, which means I'm revealing the letters, then you're going to hear those hidden letters. So the hidden letters are only there in order for something of its essence to go out, to reveal itself. That's why Miloy is shaykh to Malchus. What does Malchus do? Malchus causes revelation. Malchus is the mouth. Everything is becoming revealed. So therefore the hidden letters, the Miloy letters are related to Malchus. Okay. Ois Aleph. Let's take the word Aleph. When you look at an Aleph, do you see the lam? Just the letter Aleph. Do you see the lamed and the pei? Aleph. You don't see. All you see is you see two yuds and a line. That's what you see. When it's written ala nayar on a paper, so then beyud beroisha, there's a yud on the top, ubesofo, and at the end the kav b'emtziyusa, and there's a line that goes through it. This is the image of the Aleph as it is in essence. When a person needs to mention it to someone else, he can't reveal it in speech. I can't give you what in speech. I can't send you the Aleph. I have to say it. I can't just send you the image. And even if I try to, imagine if I try to start explaining to you, and instead of me saying Aleph, Beis, how do you spell that? You want to ask me, how do you spell Adam? Let's say you ask me, how do you spell Adam? And I start saying you, well, start with a little yud on the top, then a line, then make another yud, and then start with the dalid. That's not the way you talk. I'll say, how do you spell Adam? Aleph, dalid, mem. And when I'm saying Aleph, what am I saying? I'm exposing what an Aleph is, and I couldn't convey to you the Aleph unless I said Aleph, unless I put the lamed and the pei in. If I don't put the lamed and the pei in, there's no Aleph. It was to express the Aleph. Now, what does a lamed and a pei have to do with an Aleph? If you look at an Aleph, an Aleph is not, in the design of an Aleph, you don't have a lamed and a pei. So on the one hand, the lamed and the pei are external to the Aleph, but yet they must be connected to the Aleph, because if they wouldn't be connected to the Aleph, why are they there when you're expressing it to someone else? So on the one hand, in the image of an Aleph, you don't have any lamed pei, or in the letter Beis, you don't have a yud. When you look at a Beis, where do you see the yud? There's no yud there, and there's no taf. Truth is, a Beis, if you switch it this way, you can maybe make a taf a little bit out of it, maybe. No taf, or whatever, shin, any letter. But yet, to speak it, I have to say it. So therefore, he says, it's like similar to what? If you walked into the room tonight, and I never met you before, and I see you. So I see you. But I don't know if your name is Sandy, or your name is Naomi, or your name is whatever. It could be all millions of different names. And there's nothing about you that will tell me your name. But yet, once you tell me your name, the way to access you is always through your name. Now, these letters of your name, so on the one hand, they're connected very deeply to you. On the other hand, they're not like part of your essence of who you are, because everybody does get a name. So a name is related to a person, but it's not their essence. That's how he's explaining is the miloi, the hidden letters, they're related to it, but not of the essence. But yet, initially it exists just like your name is part of you, inside of you. So too these letters are part. So Malchus, even though it's the energy of God that goes into the creations to create, and therefore it doesn't have any of the true divine substance of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, but once it's of the Yud Kei Vav Kei, it comes from it and it's embedded in the Yud Kei Vav Kei. But it's the external side of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. So Chava is the backside of Adam. That's what she really was. She was attached to his back. Now with God, you need Chava more than anybody else. Because if God doesn't have that backside, which is a very diminished light of his, then there would never be a creation. So Hashem has to create Chava, diminish his light to the backside, to be very, very minimal, and from there create. But because Chava becomes so so close to the creation and to the corruption of the creation, then what happens as a result of that? She's vulnerable more than anybody else for that kind of an attack. Let's do this very quickly now, the letters, because I want to finish the shir in, let's say, 25 minutes. We can do it very quickly. Even if I'll tell you what the letter looks like, you wouldn't understand. This is an aleph. Until I tell you the letters aleph. Even if I don't tell you the image, you're going to understand on your own. Then you're going to understand what it is. If I told you aleph, even if I didn't describe what it looks like, you'll know what it is. Even though these three letters, it doesn't have any description from the image of what an aleph looks like. If I came to you and you never heard the Hebrew alphabet, and I tell you an aleph, you have no idea that looks like an aleph, what it looks like, because the word aleph doesn't describe it. It's not from the substance of that image at all. They're foreign letters. Lamed Pei. They're a Lamed Pei. They're not even part of an aleph. They're like the mashal of a name of a person. To the person's very self. They don't either have any value to the person himself. Nevertheless, a person turns to someone who calls him with his name. The same is also Tzura for aleph, the image of an aleph. It has a name. Aleph too has a name. Just like a person has a name, and those letters are the name, they don't describe the person. If I say someone's name is Moshe, I don't know if they're tall, if they're short, if they're red, if they have red hair or brown eyes or green eyes. Moshe's come in all colors, in all shapes, and in all forms. So the letters don't describe your essence. But yet, when a person is named Moshe, for some reason, those letters have a connection to him. And when I call him Moshe, he'll turn to me. And if I call him Pinny, he won't come to me because he's not Pinny, he's Moshe. So, shikro ba'alef lamed pei. Va'aval pisha ein lem erech im kozek tzas shaychus yesh lem. They have some kind of a connection. Im atzuris shel aleph, with the image of an aleph. Ma'achashu b'chen Hashem, since it's its name ki yadua. Gam kein b'shem ha'adam, like it's known with a person's name. She'efes katzeu ma'atzmusa yesh b'Hashem. There's some little bit of your being in your name. Something of you is in your name. A little bit of you is in your name. That's why the name is a handle. That by I pull your name, I pull you. Well, derech zeh. It's amazing a name, if you think about it. Imagine a person who's running very fast down the street. You're running because you have to catch a bus. Okay, the bus is leaving, you're waiting for the bus, and you're in a place where no one knows you. Like you're in, I don't know, whatever. And suddenly you hear someone screaming your name, like from across the avenue. So even when you're running, suddenly you'll stop, turn around. Who's calling me? You're going to the bus. See how powerful the name is? The name is actually... Literally, it's as if I grabbed you by your arm or whatever and held you back. So the name is an extension of a person. So the sum of your being in your name. When the image of the aleph comes into speech, to explain it, it will be explained. The aleph is explained with those letters. And that's the idea of these hidden letters. Mina etzem. The etzem of, let's say, of Yud Kei Vav Kei is the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. That's the essence of it. But those hidden letters, which make up Chava, which make up 19, they're like some of the essence is there, but it's, again, in a sense, foreign to the Yud Kei Vav Kei, but yet a little bit connected. When I need to explain it, Ha-Hey, Yeh Ba'oisius Hey, the Hey will be with the letters of Hey Aleph. Hey. V'zeh Aleph. And the Aleph, who Piddish, it's an explanation, the Davar Tafel Etzuras Hey. And it's a secondary thing to the image of the Hey. Atzma. That's why it's called the backside of it, Lavad. Just like the name of a person, that's called the Acharayim of the person. To the essence of the person. And that's the meaning of all the Miluyim, Shalashemos of the names. There's many levels. In general, how many names are there in Yud Kei Vav Kei? Maayon Beis, the name of 72. Samach Gimel, the name of 63. Chulu, yeah, like we explained. 72, 63, 52, and 45. Because when you'll have to explain it in speech, if I'm trying to tell you an aleph, I'm going to have to say aleph on my own. The aleph lamed pei b'fnei atzmoi, and then each one the dilamev. No, hey, I have to say the hey alone. If I'm trying to explain it, I would have to say the hey alone, and the aleph I would have to say aleph lamed pei. This is the first miloy. Now the way the letters work is as follows. The miloy, the hidden letters, they themselves, if you take letters, let's say Yud K Vav K. So Yud has a miloy. Yud Vav Daled. Yud Vav Daled. But take a look. The Vav, now you can literally create an infinite system over here. Because the Vav, that's the first letter of the miloy. The Vav itself has two letters hidden in the Vav. That's Vav, Aleph, Vav. The Dalet has a Lamed Saf. So really in a letter, if I can say it like this, there's the word, there is the children, which are the first tier of hidden letters. There's the grandchildren. That's the second tier of hidden letters. And so it goes on and on, great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. And when you're talking about God's names, each level means a diminishment of the previous level. That each level is considered the back of the previous. Like, the first level is called essence, the second level is called the back, the hindsight of it. But from the children to the grandchildren are called already array and back. The children are called the essence. Each level becomes the essence for a ray that's called a harayim behind it. Following? Makes sense? Yeah. So you can have, Adam has Chava, Chava has another Chava, so she's like the Adam to that Chava, and so it can go on and on. The first miloy are the backside, to the essence of the yeh b'chinas pnimius. That's called pnimius. The tzura atzmis, and that will be considered an essential image. Miloy asheni, to the next level of miloy, or miloy asheni, and the second miloy yikra b'chinas acharayim will be considered the back. Acharayim da acharayim. It will be called the back of the back. Latzura harishayna, to the first yud kei vav kei, or whatever it is. And so the letters of Shem Elokim will continue on. Bereish Lamed Aleph Sha'arim will go down in 231 pathways. Kiyadua, as it is known, that's for some reason the number of how many tracks there are for letters to be exchanged. Acha Olam Asiyah. Now you realize this is the code of all of creation. Until from all these levels are created the last and final ones of the world of Asiyah, the world of action, the final world. The last and final level is yesh v'davar mamish. You see, the more we're going into acharayim, into back, it creates the creature to feel less God, feel more themselves, because you're going away from the original. And that's why the physical world takes itself so seriously. However, in thought, now this is all when I'm working in speech. So whenever I'm working in speech, I have to say out the letters. But when I'm thinking, if you tell me to think Adam, do I have to say Aleph in my head, Daled Mem? No. I can imagine the word, the letters, Aleph, Daled Mem. I don't have to say the Aleph. I can just look at the letter itself. So in thought, I don't have to go into the Miloy. Amitas atumuna shal Aleph, I can get to the very essence of it. Kamoishu al anayar, as it is on the paper, b'yud b'roish. Even though when I'm trying to imagine it, I'm first have to like design it. It's not considered back. Like when I'm trying to convey it in speech. And that's why the Rebbe says an interesting thing. The reason why we have power, tzaddikim have power with their thoughts to change things in the world. Why? Because the way things get fixed is because things get exchanged with the letters. But when the tzaddik goes back to the original letters, before they got exchanged, over there it doesn't have to be like this. It's the original letters can, understand what I'm saying? It can, and therefore they can fix everything and change everything. Because at that point, things have not yet been through this chain of formulating and therefore constricting things into constrictions that there are. We can switch it around, like will be explained. So now we'll understand what Chav is. She is the filling letters of the back of the name of Ma. Which is the Shem Havaya of the word Adam. Can you do it as it is known? That Havaya is Atzilus. Havaya is still God's energy when it is still Hoya Hoy past, present, and future. It's higher than being a source to the finite creation. Creation is time and space, and in Havaya, past, present, and future are all one because it's beyond it all. And he's separated completely. He's not even a source for creation. Nevertheless, even though he's so high, Havaya, it's still a name of God. It's not the Eibishter himself. It's called the name 45. Kishahu b'milui alpha, when it's in the filling with, because it's Havaya, when it's filled with aleph, it equals 45. Oila mispar memhei kidu. The oz and then afa pisha milui u'pchenas acharayim shel oisias Havaya. The milui is the back. Atzma. Im kol zeh adayin ke'echad nechshavim. When it's 45, the milui, the hidden letters, are still part of Havaya. And therefore, it doesn't take on a separate identity. Shu inyan du partzufim. That's the idea that Adam and Chava were created as one. They were attached. Because the Adam and the Chava, which is the expressive part of Adam, that goes out in speech and in expression, was not yet separated from him. It was still included as part of him. Shu koydam an asira, before the Nasira means before the surgery, when Hashem separated Chava. Shahoysa Chava b'pchenas koyach hapoyel b'nifal. Before Chava, the power, what's Chava? Chava is the power, the Shechina, the power of God that goes into the creation. Shumidas Malchus, the attribute of Malchus, was still Tzela, she was still a rib. Echad Mitzaloisav, she was still a rib of Adam. Mechuber v'davik b'Havaya, she was still one with Havaya. V'nikra Shema, and she was called Shema. One Shema that includes, in the 45, is included the 19. She's completely removed from being a substance. But in that state, she couldn't really create the worlds, because in that state, she's one. She's completely inside this energy that's beyond time and space, so she can't become a source for time and space. They don't have any substance. The katnos. And then this constricted energy, was not able to have relations with her. In other words, she's so permeated with expansiveness of Havaya that the snake couldn't make her constricted. Mepsailas hagvuris the kedusha, from these constricted gevuris, because she's still lost in the expansiveness of Adam. Meshagvuris the kedusha inyan midas hadiktuk, because the gevuris are diktuk. Kamoy shamayim lo yizachu. Now, it's like, for example, I'll give you another example. There are a lot of rabbis, there are a lot of people that are very judgmental and everything. But when you come to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, you would come, a chassid comes to the Rebbe, and he comes to a place where the Rebbe is giving him such a love to a Jew, such an appreciation, such a high. So then when he's in that state, even though he himself has Moich and Dekatnos, but when he's in the state, he's lost in the Moich and Dekatnos. At that point, he himself doesn't see can't be judgmental, because he's lost in this higher. But when connected to Shem Havaya, she's still so high from being a king over the people. Then the creation, the substance of the limited world doesn't occupy any space. Like we learned in the beginning of the Mimer, that when the king is in a very elevated state, the whole operation doesn't mean anything to him. That's why you couldn't yet create the world from this level. That's why the snake didn't come. Came dafka to Chava after she was separated. After she was separated, she becomes an entity onto her own. She's not so nullified to the name of Yud Kei Vavke. So she becomes a source, and she becomes concealed bibiyah in Bria Tzir Nasiya. Litin teref labesa, to sustain her house, to give food to her home, which means he's sustaining the finite time and space reality. Shehem tzerufe yishtalshalus, which is through all these various combinations of speech, which is acharayim, the back of the back of the back, as she's descending lower and lower. Shalom iluyim, of all these hidden letters, as we spoke earlier. Then the godly power that's enlivening the world from nothing to something becomes far more limited and defined and systemized, and anything that's not in the system upsets it, and so on and so forth. It, first of all, it also becomes a something. Melech hala'am, Malchus is a king over the people. V'nikra Chava, and then Chava becomes Ein Kol Chai. She becomes the mother of all of creation. She has her own little empire. Then these heavy gevuras can come from the supernal snake, canal v'day lamevin, and this can cause the situation. And this is the situation. Now we conclude. We're going back to the girl that was raped in the field. Because ultimately we turn around after 6,000 years of the creation. And we see a world that in the last 7,000 years, 6,000 years, had a lot of misery, and a lot of harshness, and a lot of punishment, and a lot of intense stuff. And you say, hey, Shechina, what have you done? You created all this. And obviously we understand that everything comes from God. So we want to blame her. So we say, listen here, she was in the field. But where did the rapist find her? In the field? And therefore, and it wasn't really from her, because mitzad, her on her own, she wants to just be kind to all of her creations. Because of this prosecuting angels and all these gevuras that come in from all sides. Just like I spoke earlier, just like a neshama that wants to serve God, but gets polluted from all these that bombard it. So it's not her own state that does it. That in the field they find the girl. That there's two levels of field. When Malchus goes up into the holy field, and she's called the holy apple orchard. And then the king is subject to the field, is stocking to the koyois. Then it's everything set the way it's supposed to. Ayin Sham B'Zoyar. Rabbi Elazar says the high nevet kol asadeh is referring to the field. That melech l'sadeh nevad becomes the unholy sadeh, becomes enslaved to the unholy field. There is sadeh, there is another field, as we learned earlier from the Zohar. The chol chiruv v'ketola v'sheitza, where all destruction and war and what did we say? And kitala, which means killing, and all that is all in that field. Ayin Sham. After the snake of holiness, and he put this impurity, which is the zayhama that he put in. The snake of holiness is still holy, but around it is a klipa, which is the samach mem of atzilus, and inserted this judgmentalness in Malchus canal. And afterwards, now in that state it's still very holy, but as it descends lower and lower and lower and lower, and it starts off with such constrictions, so by the time it gets down, it becomes, as we spoke earlier, the blood of the nida. It becomes so constricted and so harsh, then it gets, so to speak, the klipa de bria. The Ze'er Anpin, the male forces of Klipa, of Bria, Hanikra Eved, who's called the real Eved, he's called a slave, Mashpia bo Gevurais Kashais, inserts into her intense rage, intense Gevurais, Legamra, Kamashal Dam Nida, which is like the idea of the blood of Nida. The Zal Vehichsik Baha'ish, that's what it means, a man, a prowling man. This guy is a slave. He takes hold of her. Ze Esav. And who's the man? Esav is son. Esav represents Gevura. He was a redhead. He was full of Gevura. And Kiyadu as you know. And what does he do? How did he have power to rape this girl with his because he found her. Now the word nara in this pasuk, when he says he found her in the field, is without a hay. It spells nar. Chaser hay pirish besada de klipa. It's in the field of klipa. Pchenas nukva de zad de klipa de bria. The chol chiruv bepchenas in that field. Pchenas golos hashchina ki yidua shifcha ki tirash. It's two things. The ish that grabs her is the male klipa. The reason she's vulnerable for attack is because she enclosed herself in the sada she's found in the field. That's the female klipa that's in Olam Abriya. And the combination, because she finds herself in this unholy field, that's why she's vulnerable to this. But what is the verdict? What does the Torah say? He should die for the rape and not her. She's a married Omesa Ishahu Levada. What does that mean? Pirish Esav Zeb, this Esav, Yamos v'Yachal. Because ultimately, let's understand something. Why did God create this? All this raping of the Shekhinah and all this Chas v'Shalom, this horrible idea, ultimately, what does it do? The Shekhinah survives, the world survives, but these rapists, they drain all their energy into her. All the sparks of holiness that's in them get extracted. Ultimately, and when they have no more sparks of holiness, what happens to them? They collapse, they die. So the kalipa kills itself, dies itself out. Eventually. And eventually is already now. That's eventually. We're already enough eventually. So it's time already for Esav completely to die in this sense. V'yechala beklois kol birudei anitzutzim. When all the birudim of nitzutzim, zman agolos, time of the exile, ad elef azayin, until the 7th millennium, which is the chsiv bala hamaves lanetzach, that death will wither and then eternally be gone. And it says that only he should be punished. Umeisa ish levado, only him. And the word levado means to say, how is he punished? He dies because now he remains levado alone. Because what gives him energy? The klipa doesn't have any energy in himself. He's receiving only because of the sparks of holiness that it has. Once you extract these sparks, he remains levado alone. And when he is sparkless, what happens? He collapses because there's nothing there. He is bared aram and atov. The bad gets separated from the good. The yapared legamri, it gets completely separated. At sheyia levado, till it stands alone. Then he's called essentially dead. Do I want with the death of the dead, which is referring to the klipa. But to the naira, to the girl, do not do davar. It simply means don't do anything to her. But loinase davar pirish ki yesh la kima. She will get back up again minifilasa from her fall. Levadet ashpos, because the reason she fell is because she was in that territory. Levadet ashpos gevuris kashas mina eved. She was taking out, while she allowed chas v'shalom this rape to happen, she was really taking out the nitzutzi kedusha that's there. B'chol Rosh Chodesh v'Shabbos, and that's why every Rosh Chodesh and Shabbos the Shekhinah goes out of this madness, out of this darkness, and we neshamas are elevated. U'b'chol yom, every day, ki yedua shebechatzos halayla, and midnight nasas rak b'chinas nekuda. In a certain sense, every midnight the Shekhinah goes out. Ubetfila shachris u'oilei yoser, shachris she goes up even higher. K'mashikasa b'kizvi arizal prati aliyas b'chaleit. And that's the meaning, she can still go up. She's not without tzaka hanarah. She's crying out hamorasa. Bizman agolos, in the time of exile. K'mashikasa v'lekim al damilach. Elokim, malchus, don't be silent. Karis tadir, she's always calling out l'nahiri la, to the higher. Come get me out of here. B'yosa b'midbar Yehuda, when she finds herself in the deserts of Yehuda. She's giving life, ayin sarim, to the 70 ministering angels. Lavoid avoidus nachri, avoidasei, to do the work of the klipa. She supports them. She says, I don't want to be there. Ubenitzutze klalis nishmeis Yisroel. And how that applies to every single Jew. This is the Shekhinah in general. Each and every one of us is a spark of the Shekhinah. This is just like the Shekhinah cries, even a Jew who does sins and is getting pulled in and raped from all sides from these klipas, but he still cries out to God and he says, hey, I don't want to do this. I'm not here. I'm not part of this. And that's the prayer, that's the crying and prayer. Because of the neshama being squeezed, b'masa umatan and business, and all this intense involvement. No one is there to help her. What does that mean? It not mean that it doesn't mean that no one can help her. It means that the one who cannot be described by anything, Mashiach comes to help her. The ayin Mashiach, which is, as we said earlier, either Moshe's staff comes to save her, or Anochi, I, that's not, Anochi means I, Hashem as he is beyond all name and definition, will come to save her. The Chsiv, it says in the Pasuk, Im Yigal Chatoiv Yigal Pirish, B'shah Shetzay Akas La'akima, when the Shechina cries out to be lifted up, many feel lost her from her fall, V'ligoy lo is sent to be redeemed, U'lahav et litchois B'china Shefa Moichin Dekatnas, and to save her from this constricted Mochin, Shehushba B'min Ha'eved, which she got from this Eved. It wasn't even her. The Shechina doesn't even have such judgments in her. This that was given to her from these. It's in a sense, you see, I'll give you another example. A lot of Jews, religious Jews, their Judaism is very Christian. It's very Christian. Hell and Gehenna and all this harshness, the way you're always judgmental and people, it's not Judaism. Even though Judaism speaks that these things exist, but in Christianity, it's such a big thing, burning in hell and the condemnation and all this. And there's an expression that says, that the Yidden, when they live amongst the Christians or amongst the nations, certain there's an exchange of ideas. So when you learn Chassidus, it saves you from this, because Chassidus picks you up into the broad Moich. Or else you become very, 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 very constricted. And that's what we're saying over here. Malchus is saying, the Shekhinah is saying, the servant, the slave gave me his judgments, and I'm also beginning to think that way, but I know this is, and save me from it. And every neshama as well cries out, save me from these. And that's the meaning. If Toiv helps her out, Shu b'chinas yisoid the Abba, the yisoid of Chachma, Shu ayde hamshachas moichen de gadlos. B'maisa mitzvahs. We said earlier that how do you bring down this expansive mochen? By doing mitzvahs. That's called tov. Mitzvahs are called tov. So when you're doing tov, you're doing ma'asim tovim and mitzvahs, that can redeem you. So Yigal will redeem, but what happens if the Jewish people don't do enough mitzvahs to create this expansive mochen? If tov will not redeem you, God says, my very essence will redeem you. If the generation will not be worthy, but ma'isa mitzvahs chas v'shalom, through mitzvahs, God forbid if we're not worthy, there's no one to help her. You shouldn't do anything to her. Now the klipa is called davar, because the klipa is something. So don't connect her. Don't make her davar. That's the slave. She didn't want to go along. She was crying. And the ayin, which is the Eibishter himself, hears to help her. So either it means no one is there to help her. The Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, the very, very essence of God. I myself will erase your sins. Like it is known, the Geulas Mitzrayim, there too it was through Anoichi. The ayin can't help her. When the bonim rejects the stone, malchus, bonim is chacham bina. When chacham bina don't have rachmanis on malchus, because she doesn't deserve it based on chacham bina, she's still redeemed from a much higher place. Because to him, light and darkness are equal. Wow. Can you imagine that we in Los Angeles were able to learn such secrets? It's incredible. It's incredible ideas. And of course no one is here because everybody has better stuff to do on Thursday night. I'm sure they have far more entertaining things to learn or to know. What's going on? Why is the city asleep? Nowhere in the world do you learn things like this. And everybody's first love. What are we going to do? How are we going to fill this place up with 300 people every Thursday? Chaim. If this didn't give you more questions, what? Yeah. What? No, not yet. You don't want to talk in the video, huh? I say everything, even in the video. Yeah. Ah! I'm already glued to the chair.